Whoa, here we go. The Dan and Aldo show. But it's not Aldo, it's Where's Aldo? Aldo's not here tonight, so you got your pal Tooch. Here I've got Dan Aguirre, and we got a great show. We got a couple surprise guests. Dan Aguirre is calling in. Danny, how is your sex life?
I haven't had sex over the weekend, so
good.
Thank you for ruining. No, I'm just kidding. But pointing out the fact that I'm desperate to get laid today. No, I'm okay. I mean, I've been around I've ridden this roller coaster many times, so I'm okay.
I know the feeling. I usually schedule my time with my wife, by appointment. So just FYI.
The only thing I can complain about is I've recently had 2 different women cancel a date with me to go to Rage Against the Machine.
Whoa.
So as of right now, I still have just a ticket. Just, hey, you want a $150 ticket? You want to go?
Right on. And, we got a couple guests with us. I'm going to bring them in just so people get to know them here. Actually, the guy in the upper right corner to my left, he's over here. No, he's over here.
There you go.
This guy is Jordan Silvera, star of Bears Necessities on Bears Barroom, the Barroom Network's latest smash hit celebrity show with Jordan Silvera. Below is Dan's guest, Sonny Jovanovic. Did I say that right?
You're good.
Jovanovic.
Right, Jovanovic.
I want to call him Sonny Jurgensen when I see his name. Former Washington Redskin.
And Sonny's joining the show tonight. We're going to talk to Sonny. Sonny, you immigrated here in 1998.
Yep.
And we the 3 of us want to know, how did you become a Bears fan?
Man, I became I was never interested in football. I actually remember the game that everyone talks about, the Super Bowl. To me, it was like I wanted the Bears to win because I was just such a fan of Chicago. When we came from Europe, we moved to Chicago. So I just, as a sort of supporter of the city, you want every team from your city to win, no matter what sport. But he never drew, I wasn't heartbroken as I be now, let's say, if they went to the Super Bowl and lost it. But just after being here for so many years, you just sort of at first I didn't understand football. I thought it was such an easy sport. And I didn't understand it until I started learning about the rules and paying attention to the game a little bit. And I fell in love with the game. And then I was like, well, man, now I got to pick a team to watch, to have a team so I can be invested into this, And naturally, because like I said, I'm in Chicago, so I'm like, the Bears, no brainer, and maybe Dan can talk more about it. I swear to God, I posted about it the other day on Twitter. Someone asked me, the first game you remember as a Bear. The first game that I remember where I'm like, okay, I'm a Bears fan. It's the Packers game in Lambeau. We get blown away 55-14.
On Sunday Night Football?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm but I wasn't gonna jump ship. Oh my God, what did I jump into? Because I knew nothing about the players or anything. So I was like, whoa, that was my introduction to goddamn Rodgers. I was telling Dan, I'm like, man, I hate Rodgers. I hate Putin, but I hate Rodgers. I'm like, fuck that guy. Swear to God, man.
So you immigrated to Chicago. Are you living in the city?
No, I actually moved from we moved from Chicago. We moved to Michigan.
Okay, what was your neighborhood in Chicago?
We moved to south side of Chicago. So the neighborhood was called East Side. So it was right next to some areas called Hegwich. So I don't know. I'm sure people who are listening know exactly what I'm talking about.
Sure, right down by the oil refineries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, pretty much.
I guess the Biden administration could use a little more oil refinery work over there. Get some more oil.
Definitely. Yeah. No,
right. Dan, tell us about that 55-14 Packers blowout loss for the Bears.
God, if you're watching the game, and I assume all of us were, you had that look on the sidelines.
What year?
and you're like, God, he's got to be fired after the game, right? I mean, he's got to go tomorrow, right? And like, it wasn't personal. I didn't hate Tressman because I knew that Tressman understood football, unlike Matt Nagy. Like, I really believe Nagy's just a fucking con artist. To use Phil's word, he's a fraud. I do feel Tressman, if he'd have just been hired by Lovey as the OC, he'd have been great here. We'd have loved him. He just wasn't like a leader type. And after that game and that New England game the week before, it just looked like he should have been fired at that moment in time, but that didn't happen.
Right. Well, do you remember what year that was? Was that
2014.
14? They
were down like 42-0 at the half. It was dreadful. I mean, it was like, ordering a boxing pay-per-view and the guy that you wanted to win just got knocked out in the first round. And you dropped $100 on it. And you're like, oh, fuck.
So I had the same reaction as you to that game. I was like, he has to be fired after this game. But he wasn't, was he, Dan?
No, he made it through the rest of the season. It was so bizarre with the offensive coordinator crying and breaking down and saying that he had been fucking Cutler over with the press. And
right. Was that Aaron Cromer? Is that the...
Yeah, just so many weird things. And, Briggs not really trying at the end. And it was such a bizarre season.
Jordan, you remember that game?
I do, and I'm kind of sitting here in amazement as just Dan just racks that Rolodex and finds whatever game,
exactly,
whatever down. It's amazing, Dan. But I don't know, what do you want to call it? The dark. I literally, as somebody, I was born in '92, but I call that era of Bears football just the dark ages. Like, I try to just wash it out the back of my head, just because I don't know. I don't want to make it sound like it's all been bad, but a lot of things post Lovie Smith have just been a fucking nightmare for the Chicago Bears in a lot of ways, just as they've tried to get back to some sense of normalcy and relevance. And I really think, as I've talked about many times, that is what the Matt Eberflus hire is all about. Them just trying to channel whatever back that Tampa 2 system was of, hey, maybe we'll never win a Super Bowl, but can we just be relevant and competitive to where we're not getting blown off the field 55 points a game with, was it Mel Tucker, the defensive coordinator? It was just
well, Jordan, let me ask you this, because if you've mentioned this on air before, I apologize, I haven't heard it. You saying you were born in '92, I'll ask you the same question we asked Sonny. When do you remember saying, "Oh, the Bears are my team"? Like, what was your first Bears memory?
Yeah, no problem. I've talked about this before, but it's all good. I laugh because I've also said if I could go back in time, maybe I wouldn't have done it this way, Dan. But my mother and father weren't even big football fans, but watched enough football when it was on like Sunday Night Football, and I want to say it was you'd be able to pull it up 90, 98, 99. It was the one game the Bears had beat the Packers in like multiple years, and they won by like a point.
It was the day Walter had died.
Yeah, I think it was, and yeah, exactly. So they won by a point, and I had mentioned to my father at the time, whoever wins this game, I'm going to be a fan of for the rest of my life. And because the Bears won by a point, I was forever, forged as a Bears fan. And little did I know, had it gone the other way, I'd have, 40 years of good quarterbacking under my belt and everything else. But I mean it. I wouldn't change it for the world. The Bears are. The
late Brian Robinson blocked the extra point or the field goal at the end of the game for the Bears to win.
Yeah, it was. I mean, this is why.
Right.
Following the Chris Boniol miss, the Bears had driven down the field with Jim Miller and had an easy chip shot, and Chris Boniol missed it. So now Favre's got the ball back. You're like, shit, you know what's going to happen. They drive straight down the field. It's a chip shot, and Robinson blocks the kick, and the Bears win.
What year was that?
1999. Walter's funeral at Soldier Field was the day before.
So I remember that game. I was outside. My father just passed away like shortly before 99 started. So I remember having to like take care of everything. We had a 2-flat on the northwest side of Chicago, and I remember having to do all sorts of stuff, around, that my dad would take care of, whether it was like handyman stuff that I would, he and I would both take care of. And, I remember being outside and shoveling snow or take care of me. Like, oh, the bricks on the 2-flat, we've got to get tuck pointed, So it was like, but yeah, I remember the game that Robinson blocked, and it was, Walter Payton's passing game, but my father had just passed away like 2 months before that.
Oh,
that's how I remember that game, the Brian Robinson block field goal game.
Dan, I got to ask, since you gotta have your Rolodex here, correct me if I'm wrong, when is Was that literally the only time the Bears won a game against the Packers in like a 5-year stretch? It was like
Yeah, the last time they had beaten Green Bay was with Wani in December of '93 at Soldier Field. Favre had thrown a pick six in that game. They'd barely lost on Halloween in '93, which is my birthday, but then they beat Green Bay in December '93 and then got swept in '94, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All those under Wannstedt's belt, and he got fired. And that was Dick Duran's first game against Green Bay. And we finally won a fucking game. Of course, they would lose at Soldier Field later that season. But again, just winning one game at that point felt like, orgasmic. Like,
I mean, yeah,
we finally beat them.
We're talking 6 years, and that's the fight. That's why I asked you, because as a 7-year-old kid, I was just like, a little dumb 7-year-old kid. Whoever wins this game, I'm not thinking about is this Dick Duran's the new coach or any of that. I didn't even know how many times they'd lost, but it was just this kind of surreal moment of, hey, the Bears pulled off a 1-point win and was a fan for life.
One more note about that game. If you go back and see highlights of it, I mean, I've got the whole game, but another gentleman, I mentioned Brian Robinson, who has passed on, a former Bear that has also died, is named Ryan Wetnight. He was like our second or third string tight end, but he always had really good hands when he'd come in. He takes a hit over the middle that, like, today would get you fucking suspended for like 4 weeks. Like, it's just a memorable hit. They showed a lot back then because it was okay to knock someone's fucking head off. And he took a monster hit during that game, is my point.
Did you say Wet Night passed away?
Yeah, Ryan Wetnight's dead.
I did not know that. What happened? I mean, R.I.P.
I don't recall. I don't want to speculate, but I think it was cancer. But
okay,
it was a couple of years ago. I can look it up.
I want to ask Sonny. Well, it has to be weird coming into being a Bears fan and having a coach like Mark Trestman that's the head coach of the Bears, because that was such a weird era. I mean, it was just weird. With the grow the man thing and all that weirdness, and his weird way of motivating and his weird press conferences. What was that like?
Man, it was weird for me too. But to be honest with you, it's one of those where you don't know. It's your first time, so you really don't know. One thing that I was so damn naive was when I first started watching football and kind of following the Bears. I was very impressed with Cutler because I'm like, oh my God, this dude's got a cannon for an arm. Very quickly that I realized, unfortunately, he was also at some point a turnover machine, man, which became, like, for me, it was like I was very fast. Like, man, this is not the guy that I want. Because one thing that I did when I became the fan, that night got blown up. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Whoa. I did. I want to know the history. So, like, learning about Walter Payton and everything, blah, 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 learning about your rivals, and then looking at Green Bay, and you're like, oh, my God, like, yeah, I want that for my team, man. No offense, but, like, that's sexy, bro. So it was quickly very, man, I was so bitter when we missed out on Mahomes. I'll even though we have Justin, and I'm very glad for that. That's something I'll never forgive Pace, just because when I found out that they had Mitch 1 and Mahomes 2, the fact that we moved so aggressively for Mitch, like signaling, like, oh my God, like in Pace's eyes that he's like, I gotta have Mitch because he's so much better than Mahomes that there's no freaking way that we can't settle Mahomes. That's how much better Mitch is. And that's something that I'll never forgive him, that we couldn't even settle for Mahomes. No offense. So, but I see that dog in Fields now. I know I was talking to Dan earlier. Man, I follow all of the quarterbacks that were drafted. I watched every throw from every single quarterback from the draft. And I'm not going to lie, Zach Wilson reminds me a lot like Mitchell Trubisky. Where that kid can make some throws, you were like, damn. But it's like you hardly see him, or you see him every once in a while, and it's like just like Mitch. And I was telling to Dan, like, man, with Fields, that guy is making throws left and right that I'm like, either his guy catches the ball or the ball is out of bounds. But the guy has a chance to catch the ball. It's not like it's going to be out there. But like, so like specifically, like, I know we all love that touchdown against the 49ers where he ran it in. Beautiful, beautiful touchdown. But I'm more impressed with that touchdown to Jesse James where like only Jesse James can grab that ball. No one else can grab it, and it's a catchable ball. Like he's shown that multiple times in a couple of games that he played. Like, man, like that guy. Not only that, after the game, that's probably the most impressive thing about him is, with all due respect to Mitch, if can you guys hear me good?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
With all due respect to Mitch, if Mitch was asked the question after the press conference, hey, what did you see on that play? The answer was 9 out of 10 times. It's like, oh, we're going to see the film and blah, blah, blah. I'll see the film. Fields right away will give you, wow, he was coverage this. Now I know if I see that guy, I can improve in this situation, blah, blah, blah. Like he already learned it in a moment. Like you completely see a different animal out there. And it gives me a lot of, I wouldn't even call it hope. It probably is the only thing that feels like the thing that I have least questions about, or at least, thought about. Everything else is like, is it offensive line? Are they going to work out? But I have a feeling that feels that guy. He's going to be that guy that's going to make everyone else around him better, because that's the guy we want. That's the guy we need. You know what I mean? I want to be that team that, like, man, like, no offense to Cleveland Browns when they had Baker, but when you play Cleveland Browns, no one's like, oh shit, we got to play Baker. Fuck. No. You know what I mean? If you went to Seattle when they had Wilson, you're like, damn, you got to play Wilson. Like, you don't want to play Tom Brady. No one wants to play, Aaron Rodgers. I want to be that team when they're like, damn, we got to play Justin Fields. Like that.
I agree. Did you all see? I think it was ESPN that had a story where I'm sorry, Sonny.
No, go ahead, bro. I was
going to say, I think it was ESPN that projected Fields to lead the league in picks this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it made me nauseous.
I don't see that happening. And to me, more, I just want to see. The only thing that I'm worried about him, I don't want him getting hurt. That's the only thing. But that's outside of our hands, I guess. Whatever.
Right.
But I'm not worried about it. At the end of the day, man, it's like, if you got it, you got it. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters, man. Really, like, you can think about, is the guy is going to work out, or 101, 102, 103. Man, none of that matters, man. If the guy's got it, the guy's got it. And he's going to show. There's nothing that's going to stop him. And Fields has got it, man. I'm telling you guys. So I'm not even worried about that. And I'm very, very excited just to see the growth that we're going to have. And finally, someone that's going to be able to actually put this kid that has all these weapons in his arsenal, put him in a position to win.
Right. Well, Laz made a good question here. I'm going to throw it over to Jordan. Do you think Mahomes would be the Mahomes if the Bears drafted? Would it be the same Patrick Mahomes if the Bears drafted him?
That's just so funny. That's why I don't think so, but that's why I was so eager to answer this question. I appreciate it, because I think Sonny has a good point about, like, hey, the Bears made a mistake taking Mitch, and we could go down that rabbit hole maybe today or another day. Feels like I can talk about this topic for hours, but to answer the question specifically, that's the funny thing. I don't think Mahomes looks like even a fraction of who he is today in Kansas City if he ever was picked by the Bears. And I mean, I'll just give like a brief example of why that is. Part of what you're even just seeing, I mean, one, we didn't have an Alex Smith there to coach him up and tutor him. And then you talk about who Andy Reid's developed, from McNabb to Kevin Cobb to Nick Foles to,
we had Mike Glennon. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so like that's the thing is you look at that, and then really what I come down to is even Patrick Mahomes, who he is today, it takes an incredible level of discipline from Andy Reid to sit there and go, look, I need you to hang in the pocket for a few seconds and read the play out, go through your progressions, and then you go ahead, make magic, or scramble around 15 yards in the backfield, lob one off your back foot for 70 yards to Tyreek Hill. That takes a certain level of coaching and trust that if you ever thought that John Fox or Matt Nagy were going to be able to foster that, I'm telling you, I think Mahomes would have been a very different player had he been in Chicago.
I think so too. Is Dan still with us?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I think the internet blinked.
You think Mahomes would be the same Mahomes if he had been drafted by the Bears? So I would have taken him at 3, man. That was just me. I was like, who the hell is Mitch Trubisky?
Negative. I completely. I mean, I agree with you. I'm saying negative on the Mahomes question. And I think Jordan made a great point with Alex Smith there, because see, Kansas City had made the playoffs like 2013, 14, 15, 16. Like they'd been consistently in the postseason. Yeah. So when Mahomes is arriving, he's already with the winning team. And with he got to sit the majority. I think he started one game his first season. So he got put in a perfect situation. And furthermore, we had Matt Nagy following that. Well, I guess technically he had Nagy his first season, but he was on the bench. But Nagy, again, I just feel like is the worst coach in my lifetime. Whether not to go political, but some people like myself might say they hated Donald Trump, but some people say they hated Bill Clinton or whomever you think is like the worst, that just makes this fire come in your face. Like, this is the worst fucking president we ever had. That's the way I feel about Matt Nagy.
I'm with you. I am so with you. I wanted him gone after 2 years. I'm not.
You did.
There's no. I mean, I was very outspoken. I got slammed a little bit, but saying 2 years only giving him 2 years. I had seen enough. And for me, I think Nagy came with a lot of promise and didn't live up to much of it. No. And he came over from the Chiefs. We thought, wow, we got the. Like you said, the Chiefs have been in the playoffs year after year after year consecutively. And we thought, okay, we got a new quarterback. This guy was Mahomes' quarterback, or the
OC,
Alex Smith, the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs. Putting up numbers. I mean, arguably the Bears didn't have Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill or any of those guys that really make that offense go in Kansas City. I mean, Tyreek Hill, most every game he steps on the field is the fastest guy on the field. Am I right, Jordan?
Yeah, no, I mean, he is. And it's funny because we're playing the Dolphins this year with Tyreek Hill, and obviously they had the weapons there, but this is where, I don't know, I promise I don't mean to totally derail this, but and let me be very clear to you all, the audience, as well as, the three of us here. I'm not excusing Matt Nagy at all. I don't necessarily look at him as the worst coach ever. I think there was some redeeming qualities about him, and not many, to be clear, but I'll just give you one that came to my head with Dan saying it's just the worst, and I get it. But the one thing I got to give the guy credit for is, I mean, look no further than Urban Meyer last year or Joe Judge or any of these other coaches. To be fair, Matt Nagy usually found a way to keep the team together, fighting hard. And even if they eked into kind of like what I call the cheap playoff spot, where they only got into the playoffs because they expanded it to a 7th seed, he found a way to keep the team fighting. The issue with Matt Nagy, in my opinion, is that he came in with Santa's sleigh and all these trick plays, and it's the same thing that happened with Nick Sirianni last year in Philadelphia. And we're going to see real quick if Nick Sirianni can adapt the system now that there's a year of tape on that offense. But as soon as that 1 year of tape was essentially scouted and found out, the time was for Matt Nagy to counterpunch, and he was never able to transcend and evolve his offense. And it just kind of comes back to that. There is the problem with Matt Nagy is it's his system, even with the guys that I have. Hey, Jordan Howard's a great running back. Not in my system because you don't fit the hole. It's adapt to your players, and that was an issue.
Isn't that always the case, though, with Bears players that we really like? Like Greg Olsen is another example, Jordan Howard, guys that really gave, a lot and were talented, but they didn't fit the system, so we had to get rid of them. Why can't we adapt the system to fit the player?
I completely agree. I always use the analogy with Pat Riley. He's running Showtime with the Lakers. They're in the finals 8 years in the 80s, albeit once with Paul Westhead. But nevertheless, he comes to the Knicks and he looks around. He's got, Starks and Derek Harper and Anthony Mason and Patrick Ewing. And he's like, this isn't Showtime. That's my system, though. And he completely redid his system to fit the talent of the Knicks. And they went to the final. They didn't win. But still, they went to the 7th game of the NBA Finals. The point is, he had one system that was just incredibly successful in LA, comes to New York, completely does a 180 because he recognizes the talent doesn't fit what he had previously. And that's what Matt Nagy just couldn't fathom. possibly changing his beloved system. Just the arrogance. He couldn't see, to use the cliche, the forest for the trees, you know?
Sonny, what do you think about Mahomes if he came to the Bears? Would he have been the same player?
I think, look, man, I'll just go back to real quick to what I was saying earlier. He's got it, man. You can't fake greatness. You can't. Would he beat Mahomes 50 touchdowns? Probably not. Let's be realistic there. He's really in a perfect system with a lot of perfect players. But would he be Mahomes that has maybe 30 to 35 touchdowns a year? Who's to say no, man? That kid, he makes a lot of plays that, man, other quarterbacks can dream of, and he makes them. There was times where I was like, nah, he's just getting lucky. Well, it was a lot of times where it was like he's getting lucky, and I was like, okay, that guy, he's doing that because he's not getting lucky. He knows exactly what he's fucking doing. So, yeah, no, that guy's got it. I think he'd be very good at the Bears. That's what I disagree, that he maybe wouldn't be great. No, you would love Mahomes of the Bears, man. We would be that team, but everyone would not want to play.
That was the player I wanted. But man, we don't have the same talent level. I mean, Travis Kelce's a guy that could take it to the house as a tight end. We saw him run away from the Bills defense in one of the AFC playoffs last year. And then you got Tyreek Hill. That was like a 9-second bomb touchdown. That arguably, the talent level not there. But would he have success? I think so. While we're on the section, while we're on the topic of Matt Nagy, Dan, the Barflies are asking for, can they get a bald F from you?
Is Sonny's kid still listening? I don't want to.
We're good, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, Nagy, the bald fuck. I'm glad he's gone.
And I don't know.
The visor, too. I hated his fucking visors.
Why, and if you're a bald guy, why wear a visor? I mean, isn't the idea of the cap to cover up the bald head? I never got it. I never got it. It made about as much sense as Nagy.
And all of his assistants had the same bald pattern.
He only hired bald guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a weird affirmative action thing. You can't get in unless you're bald.
All right. So while we're on the subject of Nagy, today, I think it was either today or yesterday, David Montgomery came out and said how disappointed he was when the Bears got rid of Matt Nagy. It took him a while to come around, and eventually, in his interview, I think it was either today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday. He said, "Change is good." Good for a lot of things. Change is sometimes really good. Jordan, what do you think about David Montgomery's recent revelation?
I mean, I just think in general, look, I know we're talking kind of about just his recent, discussion about Matt Nagy, what Matt Nagy represented to David Montgomery. I mean, the thing that keeps coming back to me is, anybody remembers there was that speech that Matt Nagy had about empty your cup, make sure that we leave everything out there. And Montgomery had talked about how that really resonated with him. And so, like I said, this kind of comes back to the idea that, kind of going off the Matt Nagy thing, I don't question Matt Nagy's ability to be a good person, get buy-in, gain the trust and rapport with his players. But I also think at a certain point, the rubber has to meet the road. And that's where it all fell apart. And I think that you're going to hopefully see David Montgomery in this role coming up with, this wide zone, Luke Getsy scheme offense that should allow him to thrive if the offensive line puts it together, which, then again, we go back to our belief in Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham.
Another huge question, the offensive line, as Sonny mentioned. Danny, do you think after we get into a little bit of the Luke Getsy, Matt Eberflus systems, David Montgomery forgets all about Matt Nagy? My hope.
Well, yeah, I hope so, because I think if all is going well, it will be apparent that Montgomery is getting more touches. He's going to be running the ball more in theory, unless they go to one of those backfields where you're splitting carries and such. But at least early on, like week 1, week 2, week 3, I think he's got the keys to the car. If he can stay healthy and, isn't fumbling and is racking up yards and scores, I think, Montgomery could, get the lion's share of the carries and get a new contract here.
It's Sonny. Does being a Bears fan, have you gotten that the run game, a defense is kind of like the Chicago, this is the way, as the Mandalorian would say, this is the way.
No, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Yeah. As history went by, you saw that that was our identity. But then I also very quickly in the NFL realized that, like, man, only if you have that stud quarterback, that was the one thing that separated you from the rest of the teams that made you be in the playoffs. It felt like a year in, year out. You had a shot for that Super Bowl. If you didn't have that one quarterback, man, you were in there kind of like we were, what seemed like every once in a while. You know what I mean? So
I will agree with Sonny on mostly everything you've said, but the one thing that I will disagree with is, just for example, I think we did have that quarterback with Cutler. Now the performance didn't always match his talent, and we didn't get the results we wanted at 51-51. But I think if Mike Shanahan doesn't retire, or I'm sorry, get fired in Denver, and Jay's not traded to Chicago, man, he probably wins a Super Bowl with the Broncos with the right system and the right coach that believes in him and has talent around him. He had Brandon Marshall, he had Eddie Royal, he had Tony Scheffler. I mean, if that system stays together, I think Jay thrives in Denver. But we had him in Chicago with less talent around him, and you saw what happened, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. I'm hoping people. For me, it's okay. In our chat room, sometimes we get a lot of bar fights who they think Justin Fields already a bust. Man, I'm not there. No way. I like what I've seen so far, and I'm willing to give rookie seasons a pass because Troy Aikman went 1-15. Jordan Silvera, can you tell anything you can do to put barflies' minds at ease about Justin Fields?
Well, so I mean, the thing that I keep coming back to, and I want to be clear, I don't think that I've seen enough to be completely sold on Justin Fields, but that doesn't mean that I'm all of a sudden off the train that I think he's a bust. I genuinely would prompt any of the audience members to tell me if there's some ideal number that they have in their head about at X amount of years of experience, a person's development is tapped out completely. I mean, I honestly think you could ask guys like Tony Romo and Tom Brady, even later in his career, are you still learning? Are you still gleaning things about the game that, you didn't have early? And so I always think that there's
That's a
room.
Great point.
But I also think Justin Fields is, I mean, what people don't realize is he kind of came in with a raw situation. And we're not even just talking about Dalton being the starter, but he's picked up in the 11th pick. He's signed to be the guy, yet he's going to this, and this is the weird part, is he's going into this offense that Matt Nagy had said many times he was friends with Ryan Day. He was scouting Fields at Ohio State months before he picked him. And then all of a sudden he's getting to Chicago, and it's the Andy Dalton, Nick Foles offense of look. And this is where I say, like, as much as it seems like Nagy was a bad coach, I think he understood what was going around him. He just didn't know how to apply fixes correctly. So, for example, they understood early on, we know we don't have a good offensive line, and we're kind of winging it out here with Jason Peters off the couch and things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to play quick game, and we're going to ultimately spread out the defense. Now, what Matt Nagy didn't realize is that that's about 10 years old at this point. If you're going to play empty and spread out the defense and have a quick game quarterback, one, you need to have a quarterback that goes from progressions 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 really quick. But also you have these defenses that are now saying, if Andy Dalton or Nick Foles are not going to punish us over the top, and this is what I anticipate is going to be the issue with Tua this year too, for example, Miami, then we are going to sit on those routes underneath. And you can play quick game all you want. We'll rally and tackle with 3-yard gains for the rest of the game. And that's the problem is, so now all of a sudden you push Justin Fields in with Andy Dalton going out, and you have this scenario where and this is the Nagy issue, understand your talent. Justin Fields has never shown a propensity at Ohio State to move in quick game from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. As a matter of fact, and this is going to piss off the audience, he's a great accurate quarterback. His issues in Ohio State was he wasn't very accurate in the short, quick game. His footwork was kind of messy, things of that sort. So to sit there and say that, hey, you're the guy, I've been scouting you, I have such good plans for you, and then Dalton goes out and you're sitting there wheeling out the Dalton offense in the Cincy game, and then, of course, we all know the Cleveland game, it is negligence, and it is just inexcusable. And so that's just, and I'll stop there because we could go on that rookie season of Fields forever, but how do you not see those scenarios rear their ugly head every single game after that of Justin Fields? And
I blame Nagy. I agree with just about everything you said.
Yep.
That's his inability to make adjustments. And furthermore, we saw Nick Foles beat Seattle up there. I mean, they could have just played Foles the whole season if they didn't want to play Justin Fields. There was no point to give Andy Dalton $10 million. It was a terrible acquisition.
I mean, Dan, something you're really talking about, and I want to kind of lead to Sonny to this because Sonny brought it up earlier, is one of the biggest issues I had with Justin Fields this year, and it's I don't know, call me weird. I'm just thinking about a lot about Andrew Luck recently. Justin Fields took a massive beating last year. Like, I please, anybody that questions that, go back, watch the film. The
Cleveland game specifically.
Which game, Dan?
The Browns game specifically.
Go back and look at the Pittsburgh game where he's just getting the shit beat.
I was at both of those games, the Browns and the Steelers.
Just getting destroyed. That guy took a massive amount of punishment last year, and it's a real concern to me at what point does that start to wear on him? And I'm not saying it's going to happen after a rookie year, but you saw the all-star talent in a guy like Andrew Luck that ultimately had his career taken from him and derailed because they couldn't get an offensive line to protect him and keep him clean off the floor.
Well, again, that's a good point. I'm just adding to it, not contradicting you. I think Luck had married a fine-ass woman and didn't need any money, and I think he just kind of like, you know how if you're growing up and you're hungry and you don't have a lot of assets, like the game is all you have, but when you're rich and you have a big house, and I'm about to go talking heads here, but a fine-ass wife, all the cars, all the money you need, it's kind of like Stallone in Rocky III. You lose the eye of the tiger. I think that's sort of what happened to Andrew Luck there. And we were live on 100 Proof, where they were. I was part of the audience when Luck retired in the middle of a preseason game against the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, speaking of retirement, we've kind of buried the lead here as one of Ryan Pace's draft gems. Eddie Goldman announces retirement today. Danny, can you look into the Rolodex and give us your best Eddie Goldman memory, if there is one?
I'm going to take a lot of heat for this. So many people, and I'm not saying anyone was smarter than me or I was right, they were wrong, but so many people like built Eddie Goldman up like he was a Hall of Famer. And I think at times it feels like as Bear fans, we sort of love our players, and I get it, but it's like we make them better. Like, I never thought Allen Robinson was, like a legit number one. Is he Hopkins? I just didn't see it, and I didn't see that with Eddie Goldman. I thought Eddie Goldman was fine. He was a good player, serviceable player, but after taking the COVID year off, I'm paraphrasing Greg Gabriel now, he basically had already retired. He came back because he had to financially, and he just fucking retired. I mean, again, all the respect in the world for what he did with the Bears, but I never thought he was a great player anyway. And he certainly lost so much in the year that he didn't play.
Yeah, that year that he took off for COVID, man, I get it. But I couldn't help but be disappointed, Danny.
Oh, I agree.
I just like, God damn it. His teammates are out there. Come on, dude. Nut up. Right? Sonny, what'd you think of the when Eddie Goldman sat out the COVID year?
Man, I'll looking at it now, it's unfair because I feel like I'm playing Monday morning quarterback right now, to be honest. Because at the time I was a big proponent, like, hey man, if you want to sit out, you want to sit out. It is what it is. But I did think, to your point, whoever said it earlier, I did think like, if they already Bears went out of their way to show these players all of these procedures that they've put in place so that they're safe as much as they can be, I thought that was enough for him to return. So like I was disappointed that he didn't, and then clearly that had a big impact on him. So
Jordan, Eddie Goldman, talk a little bit about your thoughts on his retirement, him sitting out the COVID year, and kind of what the changes to the defensive line will be.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about – I think we get on Ryan Poles a lot for some of the arrests and stuff and some of these early signings. I also think if we're going to make the guy eat some crow, it's also good to give him his flowers. And clearly he obviously had some level of understanding of Eddie Goldman and where he was at in his career to make the shrewd move to go ahead and move on from him so that any cap ramifications or any implications from this retirement aren't sitting on the Bears. They're sitting on Ryan Pace and the Falcons and Terry Fontenot. I think Eddie Goldman, I mean, we're talking about a guy that played in 81 games, 13 sacks over his career, over 100 tackles, and this is in largely a thankless position. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is that in that 3-4 Fangio scheme when he was at his best, you're asking, and this is kind of the issue with, well, we're going to see some of it with Eberflus's defense, but with so much 11 personnel, you have to roll a nickel cornerback out there, so you have 5 DBs on the field all the time. And that really lightens the amount of mass that you're able to fit the run game for. And what was so beautiful about Goldman and Akeem Hicks at the time was you could have Bryce Callahan out there as your nickel, and you have these massive monsters that are able to essentially two-gap and fit the run with that extra nickel corner out there. And so I really think he was an impactful player. I'm happy that he's retiring if that's what he wants. I mean, I'm sure Greg Gabriel could talk about this as somebody who's been in scouting, but I think football is a tough game. It's hard. And if you're not fully in, you probably shouldn't be putting your body in through the danger and stress that comes with playing, football professionally. And so I think he was a good player. I wish him well in retirement. And it's unfortunate that kind of what Dan was saying it earlier, Greg Gabriel put out a great tweet today, just that unfortunately it's almost like he's been retired since 2019. Kind of seemed like that COVID year. I don't want to cast any aspersions to him. The man probably had very good reasons for why he didn't want to play, why he felt like it was a health concern. But coming back, it almost seemed like kind of what Dan was alluding to. He just mailed it in for financial reasons. And the reality is you can't pay players to be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It's just, it doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for the team. You're treading water at that point. And I just didn't think it was a good move to keep him. So,
J-Rock brings up a point. I didn't know that the Ravens brought Goldman in for a visit and didn't sign him, but he was signed to the Falcons, I think, as yep. Pace and Emery are both down on the Falcons. A little prayer for the Falcons for now. Hopefully they'll be all right. But after the COVID year, Danny, Goldman was not the same player we had seen in years past. I mean, he just lost something sitting out that year. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's an intangible. Like, you can't necessarily define what it is, but he didn't have it anymore. It's very comparable to Lance Briggs the last 2 years when Lovey was gone. Under Tressman, it just felt like Lance was just there. I liked Lance a lot. I had his jersey. I think he was a solid player, borderline Hall of Famer. But the last 2 years, I mean, I'm not calling the guy fat, but I'm just saying he really wasn't in like Lance shape, and it just felt like he was there because he had to be. And that's sort of the vibe I got with Eddie. Was just kind of like, I'm supposed to be here. I've got to do what I got to do, but it just never seemed like he was the same player at all. To use the short answer concisely, it didn't pass the eye test. His play.
It was a little difficult to watch. All right, let's ask Jordan a little bit about what we think that defensive line might look like after Goldman's departure. Maybe some of the guys who you think probably are locks to make the squad.
The reality is you're moving from an odd front to an even front. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Eddie Goldman, one of the things that was unique about him is he was able to play the one technique, that nose, in a 3-4, even though he's not some Michael Pierce 350-pound guy. So I'm sure he could have played in this even front that Eberflus is going to roll out. But I don't think you're going to miss him necessarily as much as people may think. And kind of what somebody else was saying here, that there's a few of those players, Cohen, for example, and that was injury, but these guys kind of fell off. And Goldman, watched the tape from last year, didn't play like the Goldman that we all remember. So I think when you look at the defensive linemen that are here to stay, I expect big things out of Trevis Gibson at one end this year. I think Dominique Robinson is a guy that you can play in spot work, essentially how they would with a Trevis Gibson when he was a rookie, just kind of giving him a few snaps. I think Robert Quinn, I don't really want to speculate too much on him. I'm not sure he's going to be with the team. But I did a good breakdown of bare necessities of the Eberflus scheme. I showed Al-Qadim Muhammad, how much he was dropping in space, some of the effects he had. And really that's what I hope fans understand about this defense and this line specifically, is that it's predicated on just subbing them in and out, keeping it fresh. It's almost very reminiscent of kind of the bold Bears lines, but also that Giants line when they won the Super Bowl, where it just seemed like they just had people coming in and out when it
Which is what they did in Indianapolis. Is that right?
Exactly. I mean, they had Kwity Paye, Al-Qadim Muhammad, Taekwon Lewis, Ben Benogu, a few of the Deo de Yingbo. I mean, a few guys there. So it's a situation where you're rolling them out. And so I really think
the stars, what, Brenson Buckner that makes that engine go over there? Is that
DeForest Buckner?
DeForest Buckner, sorry.
Yeah, DeForest Buckner at the 3-tech. And that's a very special athlete, 6'8", 300 pounds. There's a few of those guys in the league. You're talking about DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, and maybe Calais Campbell as those guys. There's really not a bunch of them.
Right. Difficult to find those players like that. What if Goldman had let's just say Goldman made the team in Atlanta, what would he have played? Don't they have a forefront as well?
Well, see, so this is the no, they're actually 3-4 now with Dean Pease.
So he was going to play nose tackle.
Yeah. They're with Dean Pease over there running the 3-4. But had he stayed with the Bears, I would have actually projected him, just kind of depending where he was at. It didn't look like he was in the best shape, looking to play very hard. I would have probably put him at the nose, which is really where I see Kairos Tonga playing a big role. Part of the idea with this even front, and it's an under front, which means that you are usually having the 3-tech away from the strong side of the formation. So that 3-tech, that Justin Jones, Mario Edwards guy will be playing weak side B gap between the tackle and the guard. And then that Kairos Tonga, Angelo Blackson figure will be the 1-tech traditionally that is lining up in the A gap. And they're all responsible for essentially one gap. That's the idea of this underfront, this 4-3 scheme, is everybody's playing one gap. You're not asked to be doing gap and a half like Brandon Staley's running in LA or in the Los Angeles Rams. You're not asking them to 2-gap like the old Casey Hampton days where every lineman has to literally eat up as much space as possible, which is what Keem Hicks and Eddie Goldman were doing under Vic Fangio.
Atlanta predicted to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Any thoughts, Sonny, on the Falcons?
Man, so the Eddie Goldman news, I jumped on their Twitter real quick because I saw they made a post that he's retiring. And oh my God, guys, I don't know if you had the chance to read some of the fans' posts. Talk about a fans that don't see the future. And the first thing that popped to my mind was like, oh my God, thank God we got Justin Fields. I swear to God. So if you feel down, go see what other fans think about their franchises, because some of them absolutely don't see anything going forward, you know. And I wonder if they're looking back. I think, didn't they grab that tight end, right? They drafted the tight end instead of Justin Fields, right?
Kyle Pitts.
I don't know if there was a reason for that or not, but they were one of the teams that could have had Justin Fields that night. So, like, man, talk about luck. Jeez.
And Pace finally got his quarterback in Atlanta. He's been hot for Marcus Mariota over there, Danny. How do you think Marcus Mariota is going to do in Atlanta? Any high hopes?
I can't believe he's the starter. And who's starting in Seattle right now? It's criminal.
Drew Lock?
Is the Drew Lock? Okay, well, he's not that bad.
Geno Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith from here, West Virginia. That's what I was going to say. Like, Geno Smith is a starter? Geno Smith, Mariota's a starter? It's just like, you know, for years people were whining about Kaepernick. And I don't mean politically because, you know, I was on his side politically, but he had numerous opportunities to come back into the league and didn't really take advantage of those on, you know, like would cancel the workout and things like that. But I would think at the time, like, God, he's got to be better than at least 5 or 6 of these starters. And he probably still is better than Mariota and Geno Smith, even out of the league for like 6 years at this point. So I don't know. I don't want to talk too much shit and then Atlanta beats us because I feel like I would jinx us in that regard. But yeah, I think we're on paper right now. It seems like we're better off than Atlanta. It is amazing to me, not to change the topic, but you know, all these veteran quarterbacks were commanding, you know, Matthew Stafford like 3 first-round picks or whatever it was, 2 first-round picks, a second, and like, wow, that's a huge. Matt Ryan, 3rd-round pick. That's it. It's amazing, like how much like all these other quarterbacks were going for. Matt Ryan, virtually nothing to Indianapolis.
Well, and I was going to say real quick, the funny thing about, like, I mean, Sonny talked about that they picked Kyle Pitts over him, and Dan, I mean, maybe one day we'll talk about. I actually think that Falcons game is going to be a lot harder than people think. They're building an offense that's very unique with just towers with Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Auden Tate and a few other guys, Brian Edwards. But I tend to just think in general, what people don't realize, and I'm not let me be clear. I think that Justin Fields is a great prospect. The one that shocked me most is I really believe he always belonged in Carolina as kind of the spiritual successor to Cam Newton, the Georgia quarterback. But part of what we don't realize here, and Carolina is a very interesting perspective where they are really paying the price for not selecting him. You take J.C. Horn and you trade for C.J. Henderson, another corner, and you trade for Stephon Gilmore. So it looks like there was corner options available when they desperately needed a quarterback, and now they were scrambling to get Baker Mayfield and Matt Corral. But the thing that I wanted to touch on is that, everybody looks at like Atlanta or Denver as how could you not take Justin Fields? And what we need to kind of focus on is that the moment that you take that quarterback, you've essentially flipped the hourglass over and your timer starts ticking for your job. It's just the truth. It's the moment that it happens. And the thing is here too, highly, when you take a quarterback, highly that happens. And I would even argue Tennessee with Malik Willis, immediately there were questions about, are you going to mentor him, Tannehill? What's going to happen? What's Malik Willis's role going to be? The moment that you take a quarterback in the draft, you are essentially putting the timer on your current guy and expected for this guy that you invested some draft capital in to be your answer, to be your future. And if Atlanta didn't want to start that timer in the first year of their rookie GM or George Payton last year in Denver, I'm not going to crucify them for that, understanding that they weren't ready to go down that road.
Right now, did the Falcons draft? They didn't draft a quarterback, did they, this past season?
Yeah, they did. They drafted Desmond Ridder, Cincinnati.
That's right.
My QB1 in the draft. Like, I'm very higher on him than most.
I thought they did. The Bearcats.
Yes.
Cincinnati Bearcats quarterback. Let's talk a little bit. Training camp is right around the corner. I know people in the chat were talking about how Eddie Goldman probably didn't want to go through training camp. Robert Quinn might hold out through training camp. Robert Quinn trade talk is still out there. But to me, the thing that catches my interest is that there's still one player unsigned for the Bears. And Bears players report to training camp this weekend. That player is going to play a huge role with the Bears this season. Jordan and Dan and Sonny. That player is Jaquan Brisker, who's still unsigned. Danny, any worries about our new strong safety not being in camp on time?
Yeah. The short answer is yes, but hopefully the deal gets done. It always feels like if a person holds out, I guess it wasn't Eddie Jackson a bit of a holdout a few years ago too? And when he initially came in, not that I'm some proponent of Eddie Jackson, but they got the deal done. So I hope that they just get the deal done, even if he misses a week or whatever. But usually if one of our players holds out, it feels like they never come. Well, Roquan held out. But beyond that, most of the time, it seems like it stunts their whole career with the Bears. I know it's irony, but I just think at Curtis Enos or someone like that, you hold out, you come to the team, Cedric Benson, both players just never got their footing after their holdout. It just feels like it's a bad move.
Roquan, too, I think, was a holdout.
Yeah, he's the exception because he held out really late. But again, he came into a team that was ready to win as well at the time in 2018. Right. Thank you, Matt Nagy and our friend the kicker. I won't even utter his name right now for making us lose that one.
Well, the situation with Jaquan Brisker, arguably a first-round talent, possibly, Jordan. I know you're high on him. Maybe your top safety in the draft, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But the two players on either side of Jaquan Brisker are signed. One of the players that signed after him has no third-year guaranteed money, and the player who signed before Jaquan Brisker has a third-year salary guarantee of over $100,000, which might be the reason why Jaquan Brisker is holding out. Jordan, do you think that might be?
You're literally
looking for a little third-year guaranteed money holdout that might only be like $50 to $100K. We're haggling here.
Well, yeah, that you're hitting the nail on the head. Exactly what I was going to talk about is that seemingly when you look, these draft slots kind of predicate and legislate how much you can be paid for the most part. And so when you're looking at kind of the players that were selected right before and right after, clearly it looks like we're talking about $150,000 or less. I think it was 110. The guy was paid before him. And then you have Brisker, who's a question mark. And then the guy after him got $0 in guarantees. So even, put it this way, I'll be super generous here. if the guy before Brisker at 38 was it 38 or 47? Excuse me. At 47, whoever was picked at 47, if they're getting 110 guaranteed, if $150,000 guaranteed, and that's more than the guy selected before him, got Brisker into camp, what is the real concern? It's pennies that we're talking about for a multi-million-dollar franchise. He's your second-round pick, a guy that you've got on all your media talking about. You would have picked him if Kyler Gordon wasn't there with your first pick. You obviously have faith that he's going to be with the team. He's a leader, all of this stuff. Put your money where your mouth is. Invest some of that guaranteed money. We're talking about pennies at the end of the day to make sure that your Robin and Batman duo of safeties in the background that are super important in this Eberflus defense where the spine is built to be strong, get those two together day one in camp. And we're closing out on, I think, what is it, the 23rd they all report? So it's coming down quickly. Get them signed.
All right, let's talk a little bit about players you're excited to see in training camp. Let's start with our new guest. Sonny, anybody, are you going to go to training camp first of all?
I was thinking of taking my son, my family for the family fest I got to have at Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take my boy. I feel like I got to pass that Bears fandom to him. So I want to go for that. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm going to watch Justin Fields. I want to see him throw. I know I'm probably sound like a meathead fan right now. It is what it is, man.
I'm there with you.
I love the guy. God knows I already spent too much money on him. I
highly recommend Family Fest, man. I think a few years back I went with my family, and I've gone a few times with the barkeeper and Joe Mandel, who's the South Burbs Hitmen host. Danny, any players you're looking forward to training camp? Who's like your guy you're really looking forward to seeing training camp?
It's Fields. You want to see. Of course, it doesn't really matter what they report because you would always hear, "Oh, Cutler didn't throw an incompletion today." When you get to September, it doesn't matter. But Justin himself said they're not ready yet. So I want to see Fields play well. I'm sure it'll be abbreviated in his times in the game, the 3 games, probably not in the last one at all, or maybe the last one is the one that's important now. I can't, whatever. The first game's usually a throwaway. The last one's usually a throwaway. The second and third one before were a little bit more meaningful. I hope that Justin gets some fluidity and some confidence. Not that he lacked those before, but it is a new system, and that is difficult. It's like trying to learn a new language in just a couple of weeks. But I want to ask Sonny a question because he made the comment about, I've spent enough money on him already, and I've got 3 Fields jerseys. I got the navy one that you're wearing, I've got the white one, and the orange one. So I got a 2-parter. Do you have the other ones? And if not, who was your first Bears jersey? Since when you became you said 2014 is when you became a Bears fan. What was the first one that said, "Fuck it, I'm buying that jersey"?
Khalil Mack.
Which color?
It was the white one.
Me too. I've got the white one.
It was the white one. I'm sorry. I waited that long. It is what it is. But it was definitely a white one for Khalil Mack. And then once we drafted Justin, man, I got for the entire family a jersey, and then I had to have something was telling me this kid's gonna work, man. So it's good, buy it now. But I have his rookie card signed, engraved, so it was pretty good. I loved it. I love it. I don't regret it, but yeah, I had to hide that one for the girl,
There's a picture of me in 2005.
Aldo's rubbing on me too much.
There's a picture of me in 2005 wearing a Rex Grossman jersey with my girlfriend at the time wearing a Rex Grossman jersey, and my nephew, who was 5 at the time, also wearing a kid's Grossman jersey. So I've spent a lot of money on Bears gear is my point.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a big thing. After a while, it's just a big thing. I'm not gonna lie.
The last Bears jersey I bought was 75 Kyle Long jersey.
I had the 40s throwback Kyle Long, the blue and the orange one. I still have it, but that's the one I bought of Kyle.
Yeah, I had just the standard navy and orange 75 long. I still have it. It's around here somewhere. I'll have to break it out maybe for one of the shows. But those jerseys are hot in the summer, man. It's kind of more of a winter jersey for me. Jordan, last jersey you bought?
Last one was a Christmas present of a Justin Fields white jersey. Other than that, I mean, next one is definitely Tevin Jenkins. I've said this many times. Tevin Jenkins to me was everybody's the way that they felt about Justin Fields. That was my feelings, but for the Tevin Jenkins pick, I was jumping up for joy. That's a guy I truly believe in. I believe in what he can be, and so that'll be next. But on a personal level, I tend to try to stay away from current jerseys and experimenting in that world of Justin Fields and Tevin Jenkins. I tend to like to have the old retro ones. Like I want to get a Dave Dorson one to go along with my Walter Payton one, and getting Mike Singletary. And
could I comment on that quickly?
Please.
As much as that's cool, I like the idea, and I'm there with you. Unless it's something from like Mitchell and Ness, who, like, I've got the Jim McMahon one. I got two Jim McMahon ones, both from Mitchell and Ness. The point is, like, up until 2012, the Bears had the TV numbers on the sleeve. So, like, for example, if you're getting the 22 Dave Duerson, now it's going to be up top on the shoulders, and that's not the way the jersey was when he played. So that bothers me. Like, I want it to be the way it looked in 85, 86. Like, plus back then the jersey was darker as well, but the TV numbers were down low. And that bothers me with throwbacks. That's why I don't buy I would like to have a Mongo one, man, considering his condition, and Dan Hampton and Singletary, but I don't want the fucking TV numbers. Otis Wilson, I'd love that. Wilbur Marshall, I'd love to have all these guys, but you can't get the TV numbers right.
The classic McMichael jersey would be great, though. 76 McMichael on the back.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
With the C proper.
Yeah.
With the little C.
And
that's
Dan,
another thing, too. A lot of times they have a big C, and that's not the way it was or is now even either. So I can't stand that.
We're simpatico there, Dan. My Walter Payton is Mitchell and Ness, so I mean, I tend to stay kind of that same route. But
good.
Yeah. I believe me, I'm as much of a historian in that way about where the numbers are placed as you.
Well, our very own Mike Schaefer, who's been on the broadcast a bunch and was on that ESPN series that they had back in 2017, We the Fans, he wore a Dave Duerson jersey throughout, and it had the TV numbers wrong, which again I didn't know Mike yet, but that drove me crazy. I was like, can you get the jersey that's fucking right? But anyway.
All right. Well, we talked a little bit about training camp. Did we get? I mean, it's got to be Justin Fields. Everyone wants to see, right? The whole engine, this whole season, whether we sink or swim, all depends on him. Everything's riding on Justin Fields,
which is kind of unfair to him a little bit. But hey, we need that guy, man.
It is, and if there's a young kid who can handle that kind of pressure, I think it's Justin Fields. Jordan, did you give us your player you're most excited, or was it Tevin Jenkins, right?
I mean, he's one of them. I really think, to be clear, the options are endless. On offense, it's the offensive line, Tevin Jenkins. Where does he slot in? It's obviously Justin Fields. Kind of a couple off ones. I'll give you a couple on offense and defense. To me, I think we know that Darnell Mooney and him have a great relationship and connection, so I'm not too worried about that. Really want to see what Velus Jones's role is, as well as if N'Keal Harry has any traction as that big X receiver. And then really Cole Kmet. What is his role? Is he going to be the Bob Tonyan type guy, a guy that's actually a playmaker, option number one in many cases in that boot game? And then on defense, really, it's hopefully Brisker. It's ideally seeing Kyler Gordon healthy and on the field. Not that there was any concern, but he wasn't practicing in minicamp. And then it's really seeing, is Robert Quinn there? And I'm presuming he won't be. So if he's not, then who is lining up in his spot? And I imagine that'll be Muhammad, but how quick is the rotation between him and Robinson? And then, of course, you have the Mike and Will. I believe that Morrow may be calling the plays, but does that mean that he's at Will, at Mike? It's, interesting storylines.
And you gave me that great segue there with the Robert Quinn note, because the trade talk is still out there. It's still floating around. Of course, today another story broke that the ideal trade partner would be the Chiefs because he fits their system. They've got 12 draft picks next season. Danny, what would you give up, or what would you want back in trade for Robert Quinn? What sort of draft pick compensation?
Shout out to our friend Aldo Mr. Gandia listening, or at least he was in the
Yeah.
chat room. Something that Aldo said about a month ago on the show, and then maybe this is a dream, but if you're asking me to answer your question, and I think you are, I would say I would love, if you're going to give up Quinn, to get a right guard. I know that that's not always going to happen. Back in the day, the Redskins, and this is going back 100 years, but they traded one of their star receivers, Charlie Brown, for a starting lineman from the Falcons. I can't even think of his R.C. Thielman, I think was his name. That's back when I was a kid. But anyway, they were two starters. So if you're telling me I'm going to trade Robert Quinn and it's for a starting right guard, I'm happy. If you're telling me if it's for a 5th round pick, then I'm saying fuck that. Don't make the trade. That's about where I sit on it.
I mean, he set the Bears single season record for sacks in a season last year with 18 and a half.
No,
we're not just
totally
giving him away, right?
I agree.
He's got a hefty price tag. What sort of compensation do you think, Sonny? Do you think we could get a 3rd, 4th
for Robert Quinn?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know. I think what we should do really is keep him, and then I don't think there's a lot of Bears fans that really expect. Well, we'll see. Let's say by the point midseason, if there's a team out there that needs a pass rusher, I think that's really if we're looking to unload them somewhere, probably that's where you'll get the most. Unless, like Dan said, unless you could get a starting offensive lineman, someone, then yeah, we'll do it right away.
I don't know who the right guard is on the Chiefs offhand, Jordan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if that'd be possible.
Do you know who he is?
No.
Trey Smith.
Trey Smith. Okay, so
yeah, really good. You're not getting anybody from the Chiefs.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's I don't know if that'd be realistic or not. But I think we'd get most for Robert if we kept him, and then down the road, when someone who's about to hit the Super Bowl or something, or needs a Super Bowl contender,
and that's really it.
Playoff contending, they may trade for that guy more.
That's really it, because this might be the year where the Chiefs' relevancy in the AFC West is sort of waning, because the Chargers are on the up.
Man,
the Broncos just got Russell Wilson, and the Raiders are also. The Raiders may suck on defense, but they've got some players on offense. I mean, Derek Carr might lead the NFL in passing yards this season with Adams, Waller, and Hunter Renfrow, and Josh Jacobs running the ball over there. Jordan, I want to ask you: do the Chiefs need us to make a splash like this to maintain their grip on first place in the AFC West?
I mean, I don't know why they would. They have Frank Clark, who's frankly been an underwhelming trade acquisition. And I know that this is not what Bears fans want to hear, and I'm sorry to be the one that rains in the parade, but this is, to me, a classic example of Bears fans overvaluing a guy that, listen, I know what he did last year. It was phenomenal. Franchise record setting, I get it. I wouldn't trade a bag of potato chips for Robert Quinn, and I mean that sincerely, because if we want to look up the stats, Tooch, go ahead. When has the guy had 2 back-to-back seasons? I'm not even telling you a franchise record-breaking sacks, just consistency. 12 sacks and 10 sacks, 16 and 8. I mean, it just doesn't exist. And so history tends to repeat itself. The guy had a career year last year. He's destined to regress to the mean. I'd want nothing to do with him. But then at the same time, I mean, I'd love to pass this to Dan. Dan's like, I'm not trading him for a bag of chips. What does he provide you, Dan? If you tend to think that history may be indeed repeating itself, he's probably not going to produce as well. So then we're looking at a mentor role. But Travis has been mentored by Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn. And sure, I guess he can mentor Dom Robinson, but we're not winning a Super Bowl this year. He wants to go to a contender. He's probably not going to produce. What's the reason in keeping this guy on the roster?
I can't concede that we're not winning the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, I'm not. There are teams that come. The St. Louis Rams were 4-12 in 1998 and won Super Bowl 34 in 1999. It fucking happens. And by God, I want to be a part of it with the Chicago Bears. But to answer your question, Robert Quinn, okay, he probably won't get 18 and a half sacks, but maybe he can get 10. There's so many years that we had Julius Peppers or Khalil Mack. They're getting paid money to pile up statistics and didn't turn out those numbers. So if Quinn just has 10, I think it's impactful for the Bears. So to me, like Tooch said, and I don't mean to contradict you, like I said, no malice whatsoever.
No
I
problem.
just feel like if someone's going to offer you a 6th or 7th round pick, then say, fuck it, Robert, you got to play. You're getting paid handsomely. Go get the quarterback. And like I've said before on the show, if the Bears would start to win some football games, then maybe Robert is more receptive to saying, okay, maybe we can win here. It's not inconceivable to win the North. The North on paper isn't extremely overwhelming. The difficulty of schedule isn't that overwhelming. I expect the coaching staff to be better than what we had. I expect Fields to be better. I don't see why we couldn't get in and make some fucking noise. I'm never going to say we can't win this year. If I say we can't win, why am I watching?
Does anybody here get the feeling that Robert Quinn might not want to be a part of the rebuilding project? Danny?
Well, he's getting paid.
I know he's getting paid.
And he has a contract, and the Bears have the leverage as far as I'm concerned on it. If he doesn't want to play, he can sit out and we can fine his ass then. I mean, that's fine. I get he's doing what he can right now to non-verbally convey that he may want traded, and that's within his rights, and I support that. But at the end of the day, if he comes in the last week or two of camp, I mean, he'll be fine. So, I mean, but if they don't want to trade him, I think it's within his interest and the team's interest to play.
Sonny, does Quinn hold out?
I don't think it's about holding out. I think maybe I'm wrong here, but I think he's just at a point in his career that he's just going to skip this out, but he'll be ready once it's week 1. And he's not going to be an issue. I think he's going to be one of those types of guys, but I don't think that he necessarily wants out. Honestly, I don't.
The Chiefs in 2021, Jordan, only had 31 sacks, the whole season.
Yeah.
So less than two sacks per game.
I know Frank Clark's been underwhelming for them. I mean, you tend to look at the usual suspects, and the problem is a lot of those usual suspects have tied up their holes. I'll give you an example. Like, the Falcons last year they failed to get a pass rush since John Abraham left. They drafted Arnold Ebiketie. They drafted the kid out of Western Kentucky. Okay, the Jets. The Jets were up shit creek without a paddle last year when they lost Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson's back. They got Josh Martin. They got Jermaine Johnson. But Harold Landry is returning to the Titans. The Dolphins need a rusher. Well, they got Melvin Ingram. Like, we go down the list. Who really needs your rusher? Oh, the Bucs lost JPP. Well, guess what? Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is coming right in his place. Like, there's not a real spot for him, and that's the issue. If you want to pitch me teams and we can talk about the lineups, I don't mean to put my whiz kid hat here, but somebody said I'm a crystal ball. I can tell you the lineups of who everybody's got. I'm trying to juggle through the teams in my head, and I can't think of a place that desperately needs him. Now, what you're hoping for is what Sonny and Dan are kind of talking about is, one, I agree, by the way. He's going to show up eventually because the fines will add up, and he doesn't want that problem. What you're hoping for, and I don't want to hope for anybody gets injured, but Carl Lawson from the Jets was a guy last year that got hurt early. That's a perfect scenario where the Jets this year likely would have thought, look, we need to compete in the AFC East. We think Zach Wilson can take the step. We need somebody to replace a Carl Lawson. That's your way to get Robert Quinn off for a decent piece, but you have to wait for that domino to fall.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, you never know what's going to happen during training camp or preseason, or what sort of injuries are going to crop up and whatnot. But what would be a draft pick that we a package or one single or a package of draft picks that we would accept for Robert Quinn? A 3rd round pick? I'd be pretty freaking happy with a 3rd round pick, Jordan.
I would take a 3rd, but I honestly, and by the way, as much as I said I wouldn't trade, I'm talking if I'm 31 other GMs that aren't Ryan Poles, I wouldn't offer anything remotely close to that. But if I'm Ryan Poles, I probably wouldn't take less than a 4th.
Danny, would you take a 3rd or 4th?
Yeah, I mean, you would if he really wants to go that badly. And you're getting a return on your investment. Keep in mind, in 2020, people were saying he was the worst free agent acquisition in the history of the Chicago Bear franchise. So, again, he was going through a divorce and was having personal issues. He apologized. He said he was embarrassed. He rectified that. I hope he's still here. I think he's got something to give. And although the point about him being up and down is certainly valid, I still think even if he has 10, 11 sacks, that's so good for what the Bears have lacked since the 80s. Consistent sacks. Other than Richard Dent in my lifetime, I can't think of a Chicago Bears defensive end or linebacker that consistently had 10, 11, 12 sacks. So I'm dying for this. Like, it's what I wanted Mac for. It's what I wanted Peppers for, and didn't get it with either guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, Danny. I mean, look, the chat room is split. There's people accepting, hey, I mean, this is a rebuilding year. There's other people, hey, let's, we need him to rush the passer this season, but realistically, long term, how big of a part in the Bears' future is Robert Quinn?
Can I interrupt you, Tooch? Let me interrupt just 1 second. I'll let someone else answer.
Yeah,
and we need to let Sonny talk some more.
Mm-hmm.
But if this was 2021 and I said, guys, I know the future. I'm Nostradamus here. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to win the AFC Championship game at Arrowhead, and they will be in Super Bowl 56. You'd be like,
great point.
You'd be like, the Bengals? Why can't we be the Bengals, man? Don't give up. I quote Jim Valvano right now. You don't give up. Don't ever give up. He was talking about cancer, which is way more serious than this. But I will apply that to the Chicago Bears.
That's a great point, Danny. What would you have thought if we had told you that, Sonny, if the Bengals are going to make the Super Bowl in a year?
You know what? I agree with Dan. I'd be like, man, that's crazy. I agree with Dan that you never know. Like specifically, I saw it now and I understand it now. But with the Bears, it's kind of one of those things like, well, show it to me. All right, show it to me. So, I'm looking forward to that. I see a bright future for us, man. It's, to me, this upcoming season to me is so much more than just the upcoming season. Like, this next season is this could be the next 10 years too. You know what I mean? So I'm excited about that. But to Dan's point, you never should, completely give up, and you never know. Hey man, if 49ers in week 1, they still don't know who the hell they're going to play. As far as I know, they don't know if it's going to be Trey Lance or if it's going to be Garoppolo. So who's to say that we can have a surprise game there and steal 1-0? Then maybe we can finally beat.
We're going to win in week 2.
Yeah,
I'm predicting a week 2 victory on Sunday Night Football. The Bears are going to win at
That's
Lambeau.
what I'm talking about. Actually, that was never been to Lambeau. That's one game that I wanted to go this year. I'm hesitant because I hate the Packers. I don't want to lose my job. Yeah, like, who's to say that we can go 2-0 and all of a sudden now we got people talking about us? You never know. You know what I mean? But we gotta see it. You gotta be goddamn Green Bay. We can't just keep talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, fucking beat them then. You know what I mean? So it's like us talking shit about the Lions nonstop and like, well, until they beat us, we're gonna keep talking shit. That's the same fucking shit. We gotta beat the goddamn Packers, man. You know what I mean?
This is a great point. I was thinking about this before the show. I wanted to ask Dan Aguirre too about this. Is it still the Packers division to lose, Danny?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They are, because of Aaron Rodgers, the favorite, the consensus favorite for everybody, whether it be local or national. It's their division. And every year
gets dethroned, that is their division. I'm sorry. Until Aaron Rodgers gets dethroned at this point, because he extended his contract. So Justin needs to be that guy. So that's about it. This is where we're at.
I agree. Roger, we got him in 2018 at Soldier Field, won the division. It's possible we can do this. I'm not trying to give you false fanboy enthusiasm, but I don't think that they're dominant. They've been dominant against bad teams in the North. They get in the playoffs and they lose. They're 13-3 or whatever every time, and they go and get their asses beaten in the playoffs because they're not as good as everyone thinks. They just have a great quarterback.
Dan,
that makes them better.
Dan, to your point, it's that quarterback that always in those stupid close games that you're right that they're playing, and he's usually the difference maker, and we're always the ones that are like, damn, there goes Aaron Rodgers making that damn play. And those little games add up, and Yeah, they're in the goddamn playoffs. You have a fucking shot. You know what I mean?
I think he makes bad decisions in playoff games, though. I will say he's a great regular season quarterback, but nevertheless, the point is I feel that he's beaten up on a lot of bad teams and kind of gets a pass for that. So I don't think that it's unthinkable to suggest or surmise that the Bears could catch them. I just don't. I think we can.
Jordan, do we have to wait until Aaron Rodgers retired to win this division?
I don't want to be so doom and gloom, but I mean, I've said it before. I'm not gonna continue to sell myself false hope that they're gonna beat the Packers. I'll just wait till I see it and it's done, because I bet on them beating and dethroning Aaron Rodgers time and time again. It hasn't happened. That's the doom and gloom, but I will try to sell some people some hope. If you want the honest truth about the Packers, they're probably the weakest that they've been in a while. Just on multiple levels, their receiver core, they lost the true. You want to talk about Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney? They probably have the best chemistry in the entire division now, even over Kirk Cousins and Jefferson, maybe. But you take out Devontae Adams, you add in Christian Watson, raw receiver. We'll see what happens with him and Romeo Doubs. Aaron Rodgers has really regressed to this guy that is captain check down. I'm not saying he still doesn't make great throws and make great decisions, but he's not willing to really wing it in there as much anymore and take chances. And so I'd argue that a little bit of that gunslinger's gone, which means if you're not taking no risk it, no biscuit, you're going to lose some. And then you just consider what that looks like with this guy that is older. The receivers are gone. You have the Bears, and this is really to Dan's point. I think it's such a salient one. The Packers have found ways to beat the soft teams. And the issue, this has happened 2 years in a row now where they've gotten closed out as a championship game. They completely get stonewalled when they play a physical brand of football or they play against a physical brand of football. They just don't hold up. And so if you want me to sell you hope, the thing that I feel most about is you have people here saying, like, the Bears are going to have attitude. I completely agree. I don't think attitude automatically means wins. Go ahead and ask the Lions how that went. But the whole idea is that I definitely think the Bears will be playing hard-nosed, pack-a-hard-hat football, and that may upset the Packers, who are trying to get adjusted in week 2, and the Bears are coming there to punch them in the mouth. You may get a lucky scenario there.
Dan, I have a question for you. Sorry, I'm sorry. Can I have?
Go ahead, Sonny. Yeah.
Dan, do you think it would be almost justice, though, if it's not just about beating the Packers, man? We need to beat him. That's what I'm asking. Am I asking here for too much? But like, would that be a sense of justice to finally beat him the right way? Beat him like with their own weapon. Do you think that would be I don't know if I should call it the preferred way for us to take over the North, or would you just care? Well, we just took it over. So no, what I'm trying to say is there's a difference between us winning the North with Mitch, where there's a hope they can be something, and let's say they're winning the North where you're like, man, this is the guy. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's arrived, and we're here to stay. Do you think there's a difference there, and would the fans prefer one or the other, or is that just fan talk, I guess?
I agree with you. To me, I'm glad he stayed. I mean, we caught up with Brett Favre at the end of his run with the Packers. That meant so much for Lovey to smash his face and bloody him in 2005. I fucking loved it. All those losses we'd gone through. Make no mistake about it. These are metaphorical bullies that have beaten us and taken our fucking money and fucked our women and all the things you want to say. And here we go. It's like you want to beat this guy specifically. And then if you can do it with your guy, the guy that you and I believe in so much, like you said, you're doing it. You're saying we've arrived. We're taking this shit over. So I'm on board. I agree. Let's beat them and let's sweep them and let's do it with number 1 behind center. I'm there, man. I'm bought and sold.
Well, my version of us taking the Packers out is someone like Travis Gibson sacking him and knocking him out for the season. That's the way I want to see it done.
Well, the irony is when they hit Shea McClellan,
week 2 out.
Right.
The irony is when they knocked out Shea McClellan in 2013, and Rodgers missed all those games because of his collarbone. He came back in week 17, his first start since McClellan hurt him, and what happened? It was 4th down and 12 or 4th down and 13, and Randall Cobb got open with 26 seconds to go, caught a touchdown, and they won the division. So even in the year that you hurt Rodgers and he missed 7 games, he still came back to win at Soldier Field on a 4th down miracle play that shouldn't have happened. Thank you, Julius Peppers. And then after the fucking game, he goes and joins Green Bay. It's like a double whammy. But the point is, you hurt him the whole season, or at least more than half, and he comes back and still beats you at the end. So I don't want him hurt. I want us to beat him and then let the Vikings hurt him. That'll be fine then.
A lot of talk in the chat room about how the Vikings wide receiver core isn't as good without Davante Adams, and that's a fair assumption. I'm not so sure that they're really going to be that bad. Jordan Silvera, they got a few guys. One guy played high school football down the road from me at Urbandale High, and later was a teammate of David Montgomery at Iowa State. This guy's name is Alan Lazard, who could be sort of that kind of security blanket for Aaron Rodgers. Then, of course, they drafted one of your guys, Christian Watson, sort of the speed wide receiver. And they also have another guy that a lot of people don't know about. His name's Amari Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And he's no relation to Aaron Rodgers. But tell us a little bit about Amari Rodgers, because this is a guy a lot of people are high on, too, is sort of stepping up into sort of like a go-to receiver for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and Amari Rodgers is a great player to Clemson, slot corner. Really, to me, it's funny that they ended up getting Randall Cobb back, because that, to me, was the missing piece of like, hey, you're missing your Randall Cobb guy. Here's Amari Rodgers. A very similar player, good slot receiver, willing blocker, shifty, good route running. Came from, I want to say T. Martin was there in Clemson when he was there, but dad was a receiver in the league, I believe, at one point. Good player, but this is – I don't want to dismiss what you're saying, Aldo. I think that – or I'm calling you Aldo, Jesus Christ, Tooch. I don't want to dismiss what you're saying there about the wide receiver core. Lazard, Cobb, Rodgers, Doubs, Watson. I'm sure I'm missing a couple of the guys. Oh, Sammy Watkins. It's 6 guys right there. So I'm not calling them scrubs, but the issue is it looks – I'll give you an example. You brought up Lazard. Lazard looked really good as like a 2 or a 3 with Scantling and a few other guys, and Davante Adams taking the brunt of attention. The Lazard I remember is the one that Jalen Johnson smacked him and knocked him out of a game and knocked the ball loose, and all of a sudden you want to tell me that's your receiver one. Like, I'm sorry, when you lose the chemistry and the connection that Davante Adams was, I think you're going to feel that more than just next guy up. Oh, Lazard's there. Oh, we have Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins has never lived up to what he was supposed to be, and he's bounced around from team to team because he was a first-round pick that went high in the draft. And Lazard has looked good, but never in a primary role. And ask anybody, look through your favorite draft evaluation of Christian Watson. He's a guy with all the physical tools, but is extremely raw and had a drop problem in college. And you want to tell me that Aaron Rodgers is all of a sudden going to start trusting that guy? I think it's going to be the Lazard and Randall Cobb show for the most part. And I'm not sure how either of those guys really step up.
Well, with Davante Adams out, Sonny, the best wide receiver in this division is on the Vikings. I'm talking about number 18. I think this guy, he might give him another year after that. He might be the number 1 wide receiver in all of the NFL. I'm talking about Justin Jefferson. And arguably, we struggled against him last year. What do you think of number 18 on the Vikings?
Man, I gotta, you have to hand to the guys. Sometimes when you talk to the opposing teams, they'll always hand it and say like, "Hey, we have a lot of respect for Walter." You're talking about a guy the Vikings drafted that, man, this kid is playing at a level where, like, I don't know if when I say Hall of Fame, but like, Jesus Christ, that kid is dominating games at times, it seems, and he's just a tremendous receiver. I nothing but respect for the Vikings. I hate that they got him. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Thank God, he has bum Kirk Cousins thrown to him.
He's the guy we got to stop now that Davante Adams is gone, Danny. It's a good thing we beefed up our secondary in the draft, because we're gonna have our hands full with number 18 on the Vikings.
Yeah, I agree with that. What's the fucking white guy's name? He always beats us too.
Adam Thielen.
Yeah, Thielen. They've got a good combo, but
they do. Again, Dalvin Cook running the football too.
Well, he's hurt all the time. It's like I think he's overloved, and I mean he seems like a good guy. I hope that he's overcome some adversity off the field, that kind of stuff. So I wish him well, but he's always hurt. I don't want to dismiss him, and then he has career games against the Bears this year, but I'm not so afraid of him as I am Justin Jefferson. Was very similar to Moss to me when I watch him. And of course, Moss started out with Minnesota because the Bears didn't draft him because Randy overslept.
Right.
Yeah, it's just amazing in that regard. But I think Jefferson's solid. But again, I want to preface this by saying Kirk Cousins, if any of our quarterbacks had Kirk Cousins stats, we would be beating our dicks. But I do agree that he's won one playoff game, and everyone said Jay only won one playoff game, and he sucked. So, yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in Cousins either, but he does put up good stats. I'll give him that. But I don't want to hate on Minnesota or anything, but I will tell you this going back real quick because I want to yield my time. Week 2, Chicago at Green Bay, dream scenario, Justin Fields, game-winning touchdown to Mr. St. Brown.
I like it.
Those of the DX suck it to the Packers fans.
Well, Dan, you made a great point earlier when you said that the NFC North Division is at its weakest it's ever been in quite a long time. With Devontae Adams leaving the Packers, Rodgers into his waning years. You're talking about the Vikings defense not as formidable as it had been in the past. And the Lions, is Don Burr in there? I mean, Lions are still the Lions, Jordan, right?
100%. I mean, they're
Hard Knocks, is it right?
I'm not here to crap on the Lions. I think that they're building it the right way.
I think they're on the up too. It's
just the thing is, and you don't have to agree with this philosophy of football, but I'll die on this hill. The way that the league is legislated today, whether it's positive or negative, is that you have to have a superstar QB to win a ring, to win a championship. And at the end of the day, that's what every team should be chasing. We don't have to admit that every team's there at the moment. Teams are at different spots in that trajectory. But this is very similar. I'm not writing off Aaron Rodgers yet, but as far as Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff, they're almost one and the same. They are the definition of functional QBs. They make sure that your offense runs appropriately, but they're not going to set the world on fire. When things get tough, they're not going to lift and elevate the rest of your roster up. And that is where the ceiling of the Lions is until they decide to get rid of Goff and move on with a new quarterback.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about I know, Dan, you have to leave in about 25 minutes.
I'm here for the duration if you want me.
Are you? Oh, okay.
I took a paid night off from my other job because I'm just too fucking tired. How about that?
Well-deserved paid night off. So I could save this. I could save the Netflix documentary talk for a little bit later on. I know we're going to get your little recollections on the story of this one. I want to ask your guys' opinions because recently I was tempted to, play some bets on NFL futures. I haven't yet. But if we were to go around the NFL real quick and say who's going to come out on top in each division, each of the 8 divisions, just real quick, run through them for me. I'll start with Sonny, since you're our new guest. Start with the AFC East, run through the AFC. Just who's going to win those divisions? Real quick, eight answers.
I was going to, dude, I don't know the teams real good from the AFC division. I'm sorry, man.
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead while I find him here. I apologize.
Right. AFC East, I don't think there's any question who's going to win the AFC East. I think it's the Bills. If I were to say the AFC North, it's between the Ravens and the Bengals, but I'm going to stick with the Bengals. I love the Ravens. They always are competitive and stuff, but their offense just never seems to be there. They didn't do much in the offseason with improving the targets and for Lamar Jackson. AFC South, I don't think there's any question. It'll probably be between the Colts and the Titans. I like the Colts a little bit better. They added Matt Ryan this year. They still have a decent defense. And Jonathan Taylor's running the ball, Jordan. I'm taking the Colts in that division. In the AFC West, man, I like the Chargers. I think this is the time. The Chiefs, maybe, like I said, the waning, maybe it's time for them to release their grip on the AFC West. I like the Chargers a little bit. I love Justin Herbert. Then if I were to stick to the NFC, in the AFC, it's going to be between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Man, that's going to be tough. I'm going to take Dak Prescott, though, and go with the Cowboys, even though Mike McCarthy's kind of a bonehead coach. If I were to move on to the NFC South, there's no question it's the Buccaneers of the Class that division. I think the Saints will have a really good defense, but it's still Tom Brady's division to lose. And the NFC West, I think it's still going to be the Rams. The 49ers, I just don't think with a new rookie, almost a rookie quarterback, Jordan, I don't think Trey Lance is going to unseat Stafford and the Rams. They're just too much talent on there with Cooper Kupp. And now they added former Bear Allen Robinson. I mean, come on, let's just keep getting richer. They still have Aaron Donald in the middle, and in the NFC North, man, to me, it's still the Packers division. That's where I would lay my chips. Sonny, do you want me to come back to you? Do you want me to go to someone like Danny?
Yeah, I'm ready, man. So you just battle them all out.
Lay it on me.
I for a lot of them, I agree with you. So AFC East, I'm gonna go with Buffalo Bills. The AFC North, that's where I'm still a little bit unsure. I don't want to get too much into specifics about Deshaun Watson, but depending on if he's only suspended for 2 games, as I've seen some of the reports, I'm picking Cleveland Browns. For AFC South, I would go with Titans. AFC West, I'm sorry, until you beat Mahomes and Andy Reid and them, I'm gonna stay with the Chiefs. And then for the NFC East, I'm gonna say Cowboys, NFC South Tampa Bay, NFC West LA Rams, and the finally NFC North. Unfortunately, I have to agree with you, man. Look, my heart and my mind will be that we're gonna beat the Packers, but I have to keep it realistic with you. I can't talk smack to Lions fans nonstop. Be like, hey man, until you beat us, you're 0-2. Automatically, every season you're 0-2 against the Bears. Until you beat me, I don't want to talk about it. So I can't, I'll be feeling, that I'm hypocritical if I, until we beat the Packers, I'm gonna unfortunately have to say that that's their division, man.
Yep, we gotta earn it. Danny or Jordan, who wants to go first?
Either way.
Dan, go ahead.
Danny, go ahead, buddy.
I don't want to give you just the same shit, so I'm going to throw in some upsets.
On the heart, Danny.
Throw some upsets. To me, it's obvious that Buffalo will probably win the AFC East. I mean, if you told me New England won it, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me the Jets won it, I would be very surprised. So, but I'll go with Buffalo. Now, are we picking these as if we were laying money down, or we're talking about our hearts here?
Either one, hearts, money, whatever you want.
All right. So Buffalo and the AFC.
I know you love picking games because you did it with me for one whole season of who you think.
Yeah, the AFC North, man. I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's not so much that it's Mitchell Trubisky. It really isn't. I just feel like Mike Tomlin's a good coach, a great coach, really, and you don't know what you're going to get with Watson. I don't love Baltimore and Cincinnati. Usually the team that loses the Super Bowl has that sort of hangover season the next year. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. AFC South, I would love to see our boy Lovie Smith and the Houston Texans surprise a lot of people, but not week 3 against the Bears. But I will probably go with Tennessee if I had to pick somebody. The AFC West, I think this is the year KC loses their grip. I think the Chargers are a little overloved. I don't know if I should go with the Raiders or the Broncos, but if Wilson can stay healthy, I'll say the Broncos surprise some people and win the AFC West, just to have a different pick on this. NFC, the East is so boring. I don't know what the fucking Commanders, what they have. I don't know what the Giants have. I know Dallas bores me every year. Everyone's like, they're going to the Super Bowl on ESPN and NFL Network and every year, and they're 9-7. Yeah. So I don't love Phil. I'll just say Dallas. Whatever. NFC North, I'm a homer. I'm saying the Bears. God damn it. NFC South, I'm not picking against Brady. It's just going to be his final year. I'll go with Tampa. And the NFC West, I'm going with the champs, the Rams.
Very good, man. Jordan Silvera, I'm going to say your picks are probably going to mirror mine closer than I expect.
Yeah. Let's just kind of start with some of the easy ones. So, NFC South, I think the Bucks have kept all the right pieces in place, not the ones that they didn't need necessarily walk, and brought in some good players. Keem Hicks, for example, spot duty, things of that sort. I'm not betting against Tom Brady until I see Father Time come and collect it. So I'm taking the Bucks there. NFC East, I'm going to go a little bit against the spread. I'm taking the Eagles. I think that Jalen Hurts gets A.J. Brown, and I think that's a big boon for them. That offensive line continues to be good. I'm going to take a bet on Sirianni being from the Frank Reich tree and not the Andy Reid tree. So I tend to think that year 2 under Sirianni will look better than year 2 that we had with Nagy. I think John Gannon, the DC there, has got some more talent there with Bradbury coming in at corner and some other options, and Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean. They finally have some linebacker talent. So got the Eagles going there for the NFC East. NFC West, Rams. I think that they've added all the right pieces. You lose an OBJ, you bring in Allen Robinson. Until, again, I see either the Cardinals find some way to hold up the second half of the season, and I'll give it to the Niners. I don't think anybody knows what they have in Trey Lance, but I'm also not going to call the guy a supernova and he's going to explode into the league's best quarterback until I see it. So taking the Rams there. NFC North, you got to unseat the king. I mean, we're not just winning decision, winning by points in a fight. You want to beat the champ, then you knock them out. And until they do that with the Packers, I'm not taking the Packers off that seat. So that's North, South, East, West, perfect. AFC, moving along, Chargers. I think Justin Herbert's the guy I would start my 33rd team with today. So I just think he plays damn near perfect ball. I think that they've just, where you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and really those are the two players to me. The Kansas City Chiefs have changed their philosophy in many ways that I think is interesting. Taken some of the money away from Tyreek Hill, invested it on the defense with McDuffie from Washington and, boy, I'm forgetting the Purdue edge rusher's name, but Greek, George Karlaftis.
Karlaftis, yep.
Yep. And then, investing in some bigger, taller receivers. But the point is they're doing a philosophy change, and we'll see how it looks. The Chargers are just simply going, what if we just put our entire roster on steroids? And the only part I can pick part of their roster is right tackle. Everything else, they've got numerous nickel cornerbacks and everything else. So I got the Chargers winning that division. AFC South, to me, it's the Colts. I think the Colts are my sneaky Super Bowl contender. I think very similar to what the Falcons are trying to build. I just think the Colts are leagues ahead of having that quarterback that knows how to utilize big receivers. Jonathan Taylor's not slowing down anytime soon. I have them edging out the Titans. The AFC South, AFC North, I have the Ravens bouncing back, not injured this year. I think they are doing a little bit of philosophy change. Everybody's worried about the receivers. I think they bounce back with just a heavy tight end system, utilizing those tight ends, running the ball, playing good defense with the guys that they've had. I have the Ravens taking the North. And where am I missing? The East. AFC East, I have the Bills, naturally. It's Josh Allen. If I don't have Justin Herbert as my 33rd team QB, next in line, I'm taking Josh Allen right away.
All right. Well, great job, guys. I love all the picks. I want to talk a little bit about a little story that popped up today. Danny asked you a question. I don't know if you saw this story today about Ricky Williams' NFL pain treatment. Did you see that story today?
I did not.
Okay, well, he said when he came into the league, this was how people treated pain back then. He had a veteran show him. The veteran pulled out a little bag of pot, crumbled up some buds, and then crushed up a Vicodin pill, mixed it into the joint, and rolled it up for Ricky Williams. Is it possible to smoke Vicodin?
You're throwing this one to me?
Mm-hmm.
I've never even smoked weed, dude. I don't know.
I know.
I know nothing about this. Nothing.
Sonny, is it possible to smoke Vicodin?
You know what? I have no idea. Honestly, I don't know.
It's up to Jordan, I think.
Maybe they're telling him pop them like Tic Tacs and then smoke for weed. I don't know, but I mean, the only things I could imagine is unless they're grinding the pills down to powder form,
right,
or crushing them, or
I can't see that working. I just got to be honest with you.
Perhaps once it's on fire, it kind of melts in and just
Nomad.
I don't know.
Nomad's my guy. That was the story today. That was the story Ricky Williams told. I just had to throw it out there. I threw it to Dan because I know he's never tried anything like that before. It was funny though. All right, so moving on, I want to talk a little bit about a Netflix documentary and get Dan Aguirre's recollection on this story. There's a Netflix documentary coming out next month on Manti Te'o, former Bears linebacker, about
Yeah.
how he was catfished by, was it another man pretending to be a woman? I don't remember the story exactly. Do you remember? You have a better memory than me.
He was at Notre Dame. I remember that. I don't watch college football, and maybe this isn't fair, but like you said, he was catfished. He fell in love with someone online. Sounds like a bad Tom Hanks movie with Meg Ryan, but it turned out that the person wasn't who they were saying they were going to be. And for that alone, I was like, I hope the Bears do not draft Manti Te'o. But as fate would have it, he played in a playoff game with us in 2020. But he got catfished. It could happen to anybody.
Right.
But I guess at the time I was being an asshole about it. But yeah, he fell in love with somebody online, and it turned out to be they were hustlers.
Right. The person that he fell in love with didn't exist, Jordan Silvera. What do you remember? Anybody? My recollection is that it was a man pretending to be a woman, or either like a guy who maybe he knew, like briefly or something. I don't remember exactly the story. We'll find out when Netflix puts out the documentary next month. Do you have any recollection of the story?
I could be wrong, but I remember obviously this happened when he was at Notre Dame his senior year, having a Heisman campaign. If I recall correctly, he had fallen in love with some person that was catfishing, kept trying to meet her, and for whatever reason, the meeting kept falling through. And then at some point, if I'm remembering correctly, there was like a fake death story with the person. And he was devastated. He being the person he was, everybody had rumored that he was just somewhat not immature, but I don't know, gullible. And that I think when the person faked the death, he had come out to the team and expressed, really a lot of depression and sadness. And then that's when ultimately after that, the catfish leaked. It sank his draft stock when people were like, how are you this stupid? And the reality is, I don't even know if it's a matter of stupid. The guy's just gullible and get caught up in a game of catfish, and it ended up, I think he went in the second round instead of, at the time, he was a Heisman contender.
Was he drafted was it the Chargers that drafted him? Okay, you're in your backyard. He was drafted. Sonny, do you remember this story?
You know what? I remember the story. I didn't, like I said, this was the years that I didn't follow football, but I remember the story because it was such a hot topic at work. But like, yeah, it was very similar to pretty much that. Yeah, he was that he ended up being a man that was pretending to be a woman. So you do feel bad for the guy because, man, some people can, you don't know how their mental state is, and that definitely probably left a imprint on him as a very young man, going forward. So,
the scam artist faked her death, whatever, saying that she had leukemia. If I remember, Danny, didn't she fake her death too?
I don't remember that part of it. I guess again, I don't watch college, so I really wasn't that invested in it. I will ask you all a question though.
Yeah.
To me, and it has nothing to do with homophobia or dicks or anything, but I just find it that, I mean, look, Aldo and I have some deep conversations and talk a lot of movies and shit, but I've never talked to a man and thought, boy, I suck that guy's dick. I mean, I can't.
By Aaron Rodgers, though.
I don't think that men can empathize or be. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a difference. I feel like if maybe I'm just completely idiotic, but I just feel like if I'm talking to someone, the tone and everything, it's obvious if it's a female or a male, but maybe that's stupid. I don't know. But most men I talk to are like, I don't cry and I'm tough and God damn it, I hunt, shit like that. Like, I just can't imagine that person being able to convince me that they were a woman. I just don't see it.
Well, I'm crying now laughing at the comments in the chat room, Jordan Silvera, but any last thoughts on the story?
Yeah, I mean, I promise I'm not making this up if you want to go back and look, but the belief back then was that his culture as a Hawaiian, he was somewhat sheltered, which led to him being gullible. I tend to agree with you, Dan. You'd think that you'd know that, but, who knows where his mind was at. Maybe he was, really looking to get some, and who knows? But the reality is I think that naturally he tended to believe that this person was female, and I think the catfish used a Hawaiian culture name, and believe that there may have been a connection there. And obviously, he's a big college star, and it's probably pretty easy to piece together some information about his upbringing, his life, and try to build a connection there. And he's Mr. All-Star football player. And then on the side, when he's just not studying tape, he doesn't have time to meet a girl probably locally. He's looking like, okay, I'll take some girl that knows my culture and isn't looking at me for just my Heisman Trophy candidacy. And so, like I said, it's who knows. We'll see when the documentary comes out, but it wasn't a good look for him, and it cost him in the end. And he ended up not being a real contributor in the league. So.
Well, Cliff Victoria says, I feel sorry for the guy, and I do too. At the time, I didn't, but in hindsight, I do.
Well, now he's turning it into money, so I guess we should be happy for him. He was like, well, they got me. And the league, my career in the league didn't turn out very well, but I guess I can make this quick 15 minutes of fame cash. Let's make a documentary.
He's not still trying out for NFL rosters, is he still? Because he's still relatively young, right?
He hasn't retired, but I think the last team he was on was the Saints, if I'm correct. It was like the Bears and the Saints, and then he hasn't been picked up since. And the sad reality is that with players like him, even if they could be a special teams contributor or anything like that, it tends to be that once you've been out of the league for over a year, you kind of get pushed to the back of the Rolodex and you get forgotten about. And at that point, they're signing other guys that are more recent. You just kind of get left in the back, and that seems like what may be happening with him.
Right.
Well, his last season was 2020 with the Bears. And,
right.
Yep.
Yeah, Danny. You brought it up. Did he have like a play in one of our games that was important, if I remember?
He played in the Saints playoff game.
Right.
So I can't remember a specific instance where he did something well or not well. It was nothing memorable.
Or something.
He started a playoff game, right?
Yeah, he played in the Saints playoff game, or postseason game, not to be redundant. But I don't remember him doing anything standing out, good or bad. Is what I'm saying. He was just kind of there.
Well, I'm kind of like Danny. I was hoping the Bears didn't draft him, but he ended up on our team anyways. I have another topic. Recently, there was a story on which players were the most likely to be a bust in the 2022 season. And I'll go around here and ask you guys which players on the Bears that they singled out as being a bust this season. And let's start with Sonny again. Sonny, who do you think they chose off the Bears roster? There's 3 of them. Who do you think were the players that they chose to be a bust in 2022?
So we're talking about both offense and defense.
Any player on the Bears to be a bust.
So I'm supposed to pick 3, or you're saying
just pick? Give us one.
You know what? I'm hoping, but maybe Larry Borum. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but we'll see.
Not on the list, though. Let's go with Danny. Who do you think was one of them?
I'm sure everyone said Fields.
Justin Fields is correct. That was one of them. As a bust.
I'll go with Cole Kmet personally.
Not on the list. Jordan Silvera. Who do you think was one of the players that they said would bust?
Guys that would bust. I really don't think he'd be on the list, but let's go Robert Quinn.
Not Robert Quinn.
Okay.
Let's go. I'll throw it back to Sonny. You got another chance here.
Jesus, Sam Mustipher.
Nope.
He's a people of the name, I think.
That is a great guess, though, but no, he's not on the list. It's more higher profile. Let's go, Danny. Another try.
How about our draft pick who's been a little bit injured and is now a second stringer that our friend Jordan loves?
That's a great guess, too, but no.
Wow.
Jordan Silvera.
Tevin Jenkins.
Nope. That was
that
was Danny's last guess, though.
Oh, I thought he was talking about Kyler Gordon. So can I get a second chance? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, I'll tell you what, this is hard. I'm going Eddie Jackson.
Nope.
What so it's got to be Roquan Smith. Like, what have we missed?
Nope. Go ahead, Sonny. One more. Another try. Nope. Already been said.
Darnell Mooney?
No there way. You go. That was number 2. Darnell Mooney as a bust. Danny, the last guy, this was the guy that they picked the most to be a bust in the 2022 Bears season.
Wow, even higher than Fields because everyone he's
more than Fields and more than Mooney. They picked him to bust.
Jalen Johnson? Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. Go ahead, Danny.
I'm thinking.
Dude, this is difficult.
It is very hard.
Wow. Surely to God, not David Montgomery.
It is David Montgomery.
Wow.
Very good. That was the guy they chose
Hey.
the most to be the bust for the 2022 season, saying David Montgomery is a serviceable running back, but Khalil Herbert passed the eye test more for me in 2021. Herbert was very solid when Monty was on the shelf last year. If the two ended up in a 60-40 split, even if Monty is the big spoon, it will cap what he can bring.
Yeah, I see the Bears using this is like I think the last year that I think he's free agent next year, right?
Right.
Man, the Bears are gonna run Montgomery. If you fantasy football, pick Montgomery. They're gonna use Montgomery and then they're gonna dump him like like we're done with you. Unfortunately, that's what I think is what's gonna happen.
That article was written by
just dump them.
Betting Pros Fantasy Pros website.
Yeah, so
sorry, folks.
I thought you were going to say Eric Lambert.
If it's not
that's another great guess, though, Danny.
I was going to say it must have been Don Burr writing out of his mom's basement.
Oh, right. All right. Let's open it up for questions from the chat room. What do you guys say?
Sure.
Hit us up with some questions, chat. Anything you want to know from Jordan, Sonny, or Dan, or myself?
I'd like to kind of just talk a little bit here.
Yeah, go ahead while we're waiting for. I don't have any questions yet, so
no. I think it was Cliff that was saying that. Look, it's just the reality that you have a lot of these outlets and these sites that don't watch football, and I don't know if that's the truth, but I certainly don't think that they watch and know the Bears as intently as we do. And as is something I was kind of talking about with Mr. Shorty last week on Bear Necessities. But I mean, and Dan, you're a historian of Bears football, but if I asked you to tell me anything about the Dolphins of the last, 8 years ago, you probably wouldn't be able to tell me that, more or less even who their right guard is today. So it tends to be a situation where I try to forgive these guys that are just making these blanket statements to get clicks and interest by naming guys.
I can tell you about the 2014 Dolphins. The last game I ever watched in my apartment before I bought my house, Miami came into Chicago and kicked our fucking ass in 2014. That's what I can tell you.
Okay. But I mean, you get my point here. And so I think that traditionally speaking, don't be so surprised. And this is the reality of what we're seeing this offseason is Fields is going to throw the most interceptions and Moody's going to be a letdown. The Bears are going to have a top 3 pick in the draft. And they didn't do nearly enough to support Justin Fields because on the outside, you're looking at the league's, I guess you would say, tendencies. And the hot thing to do right now is to hire a young offensive coach. They hired a defensive guy. The nice thing to do is to go drop $100 million or go trade a first-round pick for Marquise Brown or A.J. Brown or Devontae Adams or go give it Christian Kirk $81 million. And the Bears aren't doing that, so by that, they're automatically failing their young quarterback. Therefore, Ryan Poles doesn't believe in him. So you're just seeing these outside analysts that are just drawing lines that I'm not even here to tell you that some of those may not have an ounce of truth, but they generally don't mean too much. And as fans, I don't think we should worry too much about them.
Tooch, I want to answer this question.
Yes, sir.
The one on the screen.
Yeah, this is the one. So let me set it up a little bit before you answer it. Okay, so today a story broke about Carl Nassib, who's the first player to ever come out as openly gay, who still wants to be, he wants a tryout, with any team that'll have him. Had some decent stats last year, played part-time. I think he was on the, what team was he on last year? I think he was on the Raiders. Yeah, it was on the Raiders last season. So the question is from Triple R, Renewable Rechargeable Review, the only openly gay player in the league who, like I said, is looking for a tryout. Would there be any problem with him being on your team as long as he can play, Danny?
Absolutely not. I have no problems with gay people at all.
Totally agree. Jordan Silvera.
To be clear, are you asking me what I would do, or are you asking do I think how it would fare in the Bears?
Just asking the question that Triple R asked.
The only open, would there be any problems with him being on the team, on your team, as long as on my team? No problem with me and my team. I don't have any issue with gay people.
Sonny, any issue?
No problem. Like, especially to his point, like at the end of the day, it's all about the team. What can you bring to the field? I don't want to say no. It's, you know what I mean? Not that no one cares, but your impact on the field is what's being judged, not what you do off of it.
100%. Totally agree. No problem with me. If they can play, they can play.
I can't say
that's
real
all
quick,
it matters, bro.
it's very clear, and what my feelings are don't at all align with what the Bears may feel. But the sad reality of the league that we all fanboy over and watch is that he's not getting a job because unfortunately he made the decision to announce what his sexual preference was, and the year over, a new regime comes into Las Vegas, they cut him immediately, and he hasn't had a tryout since. And so the sad reality is the league is still not, at least outwardly, doesn't seem ready.
That's a great point.
Players.
Danny, you agree with that?
I can see that, and I will take this as a jab, as I always do, at Aaron Rodgers, because I feel like he's living in the closet. That's why he gets in a relationship like every day. But if you recall, when Michael Sam was drafted, he came into the league.
Right.
The guy Kevin that was allegedly dating Aaron Rodgers at the time, said that they broke up because Aaron said he was going to come out as well and then didn't. So he was appalled by that and said, you're living in the closet, you're lying. And then, of course, Aaron was like, I don't know who this man is. He was just my assistant. I mean, there are pictures of me holding his ass and his dick, but, whatever. He wasn't my boyfriend. Oh, did we live together? Yeah. But I think if Rodgers would have come out of the closet at the time when he allegedly was going to, would have been so beneficial for other athletes that happen to be homosexual or bisexual, but he didn't have the courage to do it, and he's a liar. So fuck him.
Danny, Stephen Me says, could he make the transition to tight ends?
Yeah, would we let him play with the tight ends?
Would let him play with the tight ends?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Okay.
Not motivate the team. I'm just kidding.
All right. Let's move on.
Make any of that Kevin stuff up. You all can look it up. I can't remember his last name.
Right, I can't either. He was some assistant trainer or something, right? In the
they lived together. They were in games together. They were always together. They were inseparable.
Right. All right. Neil Skinner's question: who's going to be the breakout player on offense? He says Byron Pringle. Sonny, what do you think? Byron Pringle or someone else?
He's going to say Fields.
What? I'm going to say, is it too obvious if I
Throw
say
up that jersey? Yeah.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah, that's right. No, man, listen, when you hear the press conferences from the players, almost everyone is saying the exact same thing about how commanding Justin Fields is of the offense. And not only that, they're all speaking that he's speaking the play to them. So I really think he's going to be the biggest surprise to a lot of people, just of he knows his role now. There's no Andy Dalton anymore. There's no confusion. He knows what needs to be done. He's that type of a player. You know what I mean? Put more on him, kind of like Michael Jordan. I can carry it. You know what I mean? So I think he's going to be the one that's going to definitely surprise a lot of people. The kid is just electric, man. He's special. If I don't know. I know there was some reports about Matt Nagy that wasn't his quarterback. I was gonna say up to that point, as far as I knew, Matt Nagy wanted to. He saw something in Fields that made him draft him. And
did he though? Isn't it? I mean, it didn't seem like it though, right?
Well, I understand that. I don't know if that was Matt Nagy's ego, kind of going to sort of telling George, you see, I told you the kid's not fucking ready. But it doesn't mean that he might have not believed what the kid can become. I'm not talking about him as a coach. Matt Nagy, I think he's an excellent scout. I really do.
Jordan was
I think he's a really good scout, man, because he has actually, he has a history of fucking pointing out. He's the one that he wanted David Montgomery. You can go back and listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of I think he was pushing for Mooney as well. So I'm not gonna lie. Look, he brought some people over that are fucking dogs. He was a shitty coach. That's what I'm saying. Good fucking scout. Fucking scouted Mahomes and Watson, nailed every single one, including Mitch. That's why I've seen documentaries where Fields was his guy too. I think he has an eye for that. He's not a very good coach, but I think he has an eye for scouting.
Is that your breakout player then, Fields?
My breakout player is Fields. After this, I have a question about you for you guys, real quick. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, well, we'll get to your question
Sure.
along with the chat room questions.
For sure.
How about Jordan? Before I get your breakout player,
Yeah.
you think? I mean, Sonny raised a great point. Was Justin Fields really Nagy's guy? Was that the guy he wanted? Because he didn't even start. I mean, shouldn't Justin Fields have started? I know Nagy won. Maybe they just wanted to win now because the jobs were on the line.
Exactly.
Supposedly.
No, I think you kind of hit it there. Is the point is, and I mean, this is not me making it up. You can go back and look. He and Ryan Day competed in college. They were close. I don't think there's any question that was the guy he wanted. That was his quarterback that he was scouting. I just think that, as in typical Nagy and Pace fashion, they found a way to not stick the landing and crash and burn. And so what happened is we're picking the QB of the future. Shouldn't this buy us a few more years, George McCaskey? But also you have a coach going, maybe it buys you a few more years, Ryan.
Yeah.
But I need to win now. And I'm not putting a rookie who doesn't understand my offense that my guys need to adapt to. And I'm going with Dalton. And then there was probably a push from ownership and McCaskey and Pace to go put the kid in. And he was like, all right, fine. But I'm telling you, it's not going to work. And I'm not adapting. I've never adapted in my entire life here in Chicago. Watch what happens. I think that's the reality of the situation.
Danny, is that how you see it too? Kind of maybe Ryan Pace drafting Justin Fields. Maybe Nagy didn't want to start Justin Fields. He started Andy Dalton. Was there a disconnect between coach and GM last year?
I'm sorry. I was getting some text. If pass, let me go to somebody else. I got to make a call. I'm sorry.
Let's open it up for Sonny's question.
I was going to say, Sonny, you had a question, right?
Yeah. So how important, or actually not important, do you feel it is? When we hired Ryan Poles, it feels that his number one choice for the coach, boom, he got that guy. He didn't get his second guy or the third choice, is what I'm trying to say. Then once the coach got into place, the offensive coordinator that he wanted, his first choice, that's who he got. I want to say that almost 80% of our coaching staff was that, first choice, that's who we want, that's who we got. It wasn't because, the guy went to a different team, he picked a different team, so we had to settle, we had to go for the second or the third choice. How important do you think that is, or do you feel like it's really not that big of a deal?
Go ahead, Jordan. You take it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal, Sonny. I think that the Bears are prepared to. I guess you would say I think they're going to be competitive, and I don't think that this is really an issue going forward. So.
I guess the reason I brought that up because it seemed like when Nagy was first hired, a lot of coaches that he got weren't really his first choice. So he got a lot of coaches where you heard him talking later, like, well, I gotta teach the coach to do what I want him to do. And it's like, well, then probably wasn't the coach to hire.
No, Sonny, you bring up a good point, but kind of, I mean, when you look at the situation, he picked up Mark Helfrich from the University of Oregon. I mean, that's an upgrade in his job. So he went out and seemed to pick his offensive coordinator in year one, and then went and got Harry Hiestand from Notre Dame, who was, known to be the right type of guy, great offensive line coach, kind of kept Vic Fangio, but then many people don't remember this. He actually blocked Vic from taking Sean Desai because he saw what Sean Desai could be. So Mike Fury was his guy going back to, I think, was it KC or Philadelphia, one of those. So a lot of those scenarios, I mean, you had Kevin
all those
Gilbride.
guys you're naming sucked at coaching.
But this is the thing, and this is what I'm trying to say, is like to Sonny's point, I actually think in many ways he did get to choose his coaches, and it just didn't work.
Except for Fangio, right?
Yeah, well, he didn't pick Fangio.
Right. That was the only good coach, and he didn't even pick him.
So this is the whole thing, though. This is where I hate this because it feels like I'm standing up for Nagy. I'm not. I wanted him gone. I mean, I'm not here to tell you I'm Mr. Nostradamus, but it felt like this was clearly going the wrong way in perpetuity about halfway through the second year when Pinheiro missed that field goal. And I was just like, it's just not working. This isn't doing well. And that was before, you even go back and look at 2018, and I think he had like the 22nd ranked EPA offense. And so it was never a killer offense, even with all the weapons. But it's just one of those scenarios where, like I said, I'm not trying to stand up for the guy.
No,
I tend to think that his logic was in the right places. It just never seemed to work. Like, if you're going to bring in Helfrich for your second-year quarterback in Mitch, why are we getting rid of him so quick? Harry Hiestan's one of the most respected offensive line coaches in college ball, and you're firing him and moving on to Coach Juan Castillo, who frankly isn't a great offensive line coach. And that's not just from me. That's from Ross Tucker. That's from Greg Gabriel. That's from a lot of people. And Mike Fury couldn't develop Riley Ridley amongst Taylor Gabriel, amongst Anthony Miller. And the guy was still coaching there last year. A lot of these moves don't make sense.
They were the coaches that got fired were guys that knew that Nagy was a fraud, in my opinion. I'm just saying.
Do you think? Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why it was a question. Do you feel if there was any difference? Now, you mentioned Mitch and him not being able to develop Mitch, which I agree that he was never able to, just like his game plan, he was never able to pivot from understanding that Mitch is not a pocket passer quarterback that's going to drop back, scan the field left and right, play in and play out. That's just not who Mitch is. I don't want to get into, you know what I mean? Clearly, he didn't put the kid in the best spot. My question is this. Do you think as a franchise, we actually made a mistake when I don't know why we brought in Foles, like we're playing Monday morning quarterback now, but wouldn't it have just made sense to okay, we realize that Mitch is never going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's never going to be close to Deshaun Watson. But if we give him a little bit of a better line, maybe we can get something going with this kid, whether it be the run game or whatnot. Do you think it was a miss to double down on the quarterback, specifically someone like Foles, who we paid a lot of money to pick up the contract from Jacksonville? We gave up, I believe, a 4th-round pick. I want to say there was some offensive linemen were available to be signed, but we didn't go for those guys. We just went for a damn quarterback again. Do you think that was a miss by the franchise?
Well,
one of many.
One of many, yeah.
It's so funny because, Sonny, you're not doing anything wrong, Sonny. It's just you're picking the right topics to get my blood boiling, and I'm going to try to be diplomatic because this subject has always really bothered me. And I don't know, you're going to give me my space now because we started and I'm hot. So
go ahead.
The Matt Nagy thing, and I'm trying to be diplomatic because God forbid, I'm sure he's a very nice guy, and if anybody were to hear this and pass it along, I don't want to be the bane of his existence. The Bears decided to follow the Sean McVay Rams model almost to a T under Ryan Pace after John Fox was fired. And what they decided to do and what they saw with St. Louis that became LA is we had this defensive coach, and it was Jeff Fisher in that case, it's John Fox, with this young quarterback in his first year, Jared Goff, Mitchell Trubisky. And it didn't look very promising. And all they did, because it's a copycat league, is they saw, well, look what LA did. They hired this young whiz kid named Sean McVay, and they told him to be the QB whisperer for Jared Goff. And wow, they found a ton of success. And I'm sure I will never have any proof of the conversations between Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. And if somebody wants to have that argument with me, they can. I just don't see where the logic holds up to fight this argument. But there is no reasonable possible way you can sell me on the idea that in that interview with Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, there had to be the discussion of, we just drafted this guy number 2 overall. Can you make him work? I need you to make my pick of Mitchell Trubisky work. And there's no way you hire that guy. If he goes, I got to be honest with you, Mitch isn't the guy, I can't do it. Then you'd be like, let me move on and I'll find somebody that can. So now you have a coach that's promising things. And then from day one, it was always a question, never full-on support and confidence in the young quarterback that was Mitchell Trubisky. So it led to a constant situation of Mitch having to look over his shoulder and over his back at a coach that was supposed to support him. And it only took all of 2 games, week 2, Seattle, Monday night game, where they're asking in the pregame meetings that week, hey, Nagy, how do you feel about the offense picking up your plays? And he had said, I have to be honest. Mitch is learning. I'm not sure I can even throw my whole playbook at him. He was basically saying, I feel limited. Isn't it your job as the QB whisperer to cater to your young QB to make sure he's successful.
Oh, yes.
And it never got off on that foot, and it only continued to perpetuate itself. I'm going to go ship off Jordan Howard. The Ryan Pace kept going, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue to double down on we're going to be the Rams. They have Aaron Donald. I need to go get me a Khalil Mack, so let's make it happen. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. I'm going to go trade for Khalil Mack. We're going to build it like the Rams. The problem is that Matt Nagy was never the offensive mind that Sean McVay was, and it continued to perpetuate it. So for those that don't remember, Mitch opened up year 2 with Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, Trey Burton, quite a few other players signed. The weapons were there. And yes, people remember 2018 as an offense that was working. It's why I'm so interested in an offense like the Eagles this year, seeing what year 2 looks like under Nick Sirianni, the offensive coordinator that nobody knows what the plays look like, which is why I think even if the Bears look good this year under Getsy, hold your horses. Don't sit there and assume it's going to be that way in perpetuity. It's a situation that I think, and as I said, I'm trying to be diplomatic without going off the rails. I think Matt Nagy sold a false bit of goods to Ryan Pace to secure a job and then did the opposite of everything he promised. And for that, I don't forgive him. And it's unfortunate because I'll end it with this. The only person that suffers there besides the Bears and us fans is Mitchell Trubisky suffers. Mitchell Trubisky, as high as he is, he'll probably be in the league for a long time because he was a first-round pick high. He did his rehab year in Buffalo and then was told you're the high-prized free agent, signed almost immediately to Pittsburgh. And even then, they wouldn't give him a real shot. They immediately drafted his replacement and flipped over the hourglass the moment that they drafted Kenny Pickett. Whether or not he is really damaged goods, he's never going to get that opportunity because Matt Nagy put an irreversible stain on his career. That even doing rehab in Buffalo and things of that sort, he's never being given the keys to the car and said, we believe in you, we'll trust you, we think you can do it. It's really unfortunate. His career is in many ways over because of that.
Right. Now, after the draft, his chance window got a little smaller with Kenny Pickett being drafted, but I still think he's got a chance to win that starting job, as good a chance as he's had in quite a while. But yeah, I mean, he definitely needed a year of rehab after quitting Nagy, the Nagy system.
And Tucha and Sonny, please, I'd like you to get in on this. I brought this up last week. Who can you possibly name that developed truly under Matt Nagy in his tenure? I guess, and I'll give you the freebies. Darnell Mooney and David Montgomery. And my one question before you shoot those out back at me is,
I agree.
Do you believe Darnell Mooney has shown everything he's capable of and David Montgomery the same? And then ask yourself who else has really developed under the offensive mastermind that was Matt Nagy?
Yeah, go ahead, Sonny. You know my answer.
No, there's really no one to name. And like you said, some of the players that what you just mentioned, those are players that would be successful, doesn't matter who the coach is. So yeah, of course that those are going to succeed. That's what I said, that Nagy, to me, he's a good scout. You know what I mean? But I agree with you that there really no one really jumps off the page unless you had that internal talent. You're fucking fucked, pretty much. If you got drafted by Nagy, if you were hoping to get developed. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So your pick for breakout player was Justin Fields. Jordan, did we get yours yet? And I'll give you mine after that.
I said I think
you said Tevin Jenkins or Mooney.
No. I think Darnell Mooney is a good option, but I'll give you one that is sneaky. And I promise I'm not like spewing propaganda here. I really believe it. I think Cole Kmet has a breakout year.
That's a good pick. It was torn between those two. I'm going to go with Darnell Mooney because I have to see Cole Kmet's hands a little bit.
Sure.
More.
I could remind you,
Darnell Mooney's the easy choice for me.
If I could remind you real quick, Darnell Mooney is a guy that had 800 yards, or Cole Kmet had 800 yards receiving last year. No touchdowns, I get it.
They kind of already broke out, you're saying?
What does that look like, Cole Kmet, with 800 yards in the bad offense that was Nagy? What happens when it's functional and he's actually used in the red zone?
Right. Well, the only thing that would bother me, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm just going to say Green Bay is a place that doesn't really use the tight end.
Bob Tonyan looked pretty good.
Yeah, but was he? Yeah, I get what you're saying. A couple of years ago, but historically, the Green Bay offense. Now we have Luke Getsy, who was last year's what was he, quarterback coach, assistant offensive coordinator last year, or what?
Well, so
was he full offensive coordinator last year? Title?
He was QB coach, but
QB coach, right?
I mean, the thing is I'm just looking a little bit further than that.
Mm-hmm.
So Tanyan looked okay in Green Bay. Janoko, the QB coach, they tried to make it. I mean, they literally drafted Irv Smith in the second round, and they had Kyle Rudolph there. Then you also look at who they're going back to with Shanahan, which has been Shannon Sharp, down to Tony Scheffler, down to currently the George Kittle. I mean, tight end is a pivotal thing there. And then the last thing I'll add there for you is Justin Fields actually showed a propensity to hit his tight end. Now, it wasn't frequently because when you have Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Jameson Williams, you don't tend to look at the tight end. But when you don't have those all-stars and it's just Darnell Mooney and a couple role players, he tends to look towards the big, safe body, and that's what you saw in Jeremy Ruckert. And Jeremy Ruckert's a guy I was very high on. He's with the Jets now. Go look at the measurables, mock draftable of Jeremy Ruckert to Cole Kmet and see that they are very similar players. He's going to become a red zone blanket target for
Justin. He had a lot of red zone targets last year. If you want to look at JTK's point down below, he does make a good point. You know, Rodgers is the one who historically doesn't use the tight end. Maybe he will more this year.
This is what people don't realize about the Green Bay offense is as good as it is, and we're not knocking them. They're successful. And this is what a good coach should do. Take note, Nagy. That offense has tailored itself to their veteran quarterback. I'll give you a perfect example of where I think there's going to be a huge difference. They probably could have benefited in Green Bay with more play action, but Aaron Rodgers does not like to run play action. So they've scrapped that portion of the thing. If we're just going to go, well, in Green Bay they didn't run play action, so they're not going to run play action with Justin Fields. Bullcrap. I think it comes down to the veteran and says, this is what I like. And if there's any indication of Justin Fields, they have at least solicited him for his input. They asked him, what do you think about this Velus Jones kid? They took him. What do you think about this type of offense? How do you want to run it? They are asking him for his feedback because he's the guy. He's been getting the snaps from day one. So I think you're going to hear him say, look, I like to turn my back to the defense, fake the handoff. I like to be booted out. I like to have half-field reads. And I like 9-8-9 concepts or sail concepts where I have an alert, I have a mid, and I have a low. And that's totally predicated on what the wide zone does as well. And I showed that at the very end of Eberflus's scheme video 2 weeks ago on Bare Necessities.
Right on. Well, before we get into some other talk, I want to go with Cliff's question. He's got the Bear. His question was Bears record this year, Sonny. What do you think?
Ooh. So, what is that? 8-9, maybe?
8-9.
I don't know, man.
I think that's a great answer because they're right around about where I'm at. Yeah. Jordan,
I got it 9-8. And I've really, I don't mean to be hedging my bets. I just think all-star, everything goes right perfectly. It's 11-6.
Yeah.
And probably more likely in the middle, 9-7 or 9-8. And then things go astronomically wrong, but Fields stays healthy. Fields doesn't stay healthy, all bets are off. But everything goes astronomically wrong around Fields. Offensive line doesn't block. D-line doesn't get pressure. Coverage is bad. Blown coverages. You're looking at 7 wins.
There's a lot of games that I'm looking at that, like, man, this is going to come down to who has the better quarterback. And that's where, to your point, you know, you could go 8 or 9, or like they could be a lot more than 8. Because I feel that, hey, I feel that Fields is better than Zach Wilson. I'm sorry. I think Zach Wilson sucks. No offense if you're a Jets fan in the chat room. He's Mitchell Trubisky 2.0. He needs help, but he's not that it guy. No one's going to be scared of Zach Wilson. I'm sorry.
Well, and this is, Sonny, you're at the right point. They're playing Tua. They're playing Jalen Hurts. They're playing
Zach Wilson. The schedule's not that difficult.
They're playing Daniel Jones.
There's a lot of quarterbacks that I'm like, well, Justin's better. So I'm hoping that'll be the difference maker.
We'll go through it. I mean, week 1, Soldier Field, San Francisco 49ers. Eberflus better be able to stop the run, because I'll tell you right now, the 49ers come and run the ball right down your throat in that game. I would lean 49ers that game. Hey, this is a game we could steal. It's Trey Lance. We don't know what all the 49ers have to do is run it, and Eberflus not be able to stop the run, and we're going to be in trouble.
But do we know is it going to be Trey Lance or is it going to be Garoppolo? Because as far as I know,
either one. Either one, it doesn't matter. They're still going to run the ball the majority of the time.
That's true.
I mean, they could start 0-2. They've got the Packers the week after.
No, you
Then,
could
then
go.
you've got Lovey coming home to Soldier Field. That's going to be a big game for Lovey. I don't think that's a loss for the Bears. I'm going to say that's our first win. We're 1-2. Then we go at the Giants. It's going to be a tougher game than we think, Jordan. I think it's still winnable, and we're 2-2. We go to Minnesota, play the Vikings after that. I think we're 2-3 because, like I said, Justin Jefferson's a hard beast to stop. But the Commanders come in the next week. I'm not scared of the Commanders. We're 3-3. Then we go at the Patriots. I don't like our chances, but you never know. I'm going to say 3-4. Then we hit the Cowboys. Are the Cowboys beatable? Sure. I don't know, though. I mean, it's in Dallas. You still have Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. We're what, 3-5 now? Then we're at home against the Dolphins. I think we can win that game unless they can't stop the speedy wide receivers. But Tua doesn't scare me, Jordan. So
No,
what?
weather's going to be
We're
bad.
4-5 in week 9. Then the Lions come into town. That's definitely winnable. Screw you, Don Burr. We're 5-5. Then we go to the Falcons. We could definitely win that. We're 6-5. We're at the Jets. I think the Jets will be a little tougher game than maybe Sonny thinks, but let's say we win it. We're 7-5. Then we have the Packers coming to Soldier Field. Would I love to beat the Packers? Sure. Do I think we will? I don't know. Maybe. I'm going to say we're 7-6, though, and then we've got the Eagles at Soldier Field. I'm going to take the Eagles. Just being realistic, we're 7-7. But we still have 7 wins in Week 15. That puts me over the 6-5 over and under that Vegas set. Then the Bills come into town. I'm going to take Josh Allen. Then we go to the Lions. I'm going to take the Lions to win one. We're 7-9. Then we got the Vikings coming to Soldier Field. We could probably win that one. So we're right around where Sonny says, 8-9. And I like 7-10. That's my number, 7-10. Jordan, you said 9-8? Yeah. Any one of those teams, man. I haven't really looked at the chat room, but I'm sure people in the chat room are probably flaming me right now.
No.
I don't know. That's just as a longtime Bears fan, looking at the schedule, that's what I feel.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sonny? You're kind of like you said 8-9. I'm 7-10. Jordan's at 9-8. I mean, any one of those games, a close game, could go either way, and I think we're right about where we're at. And that, to me, that's a successful season. But the schedule being as easy it is, and I just went through it. That's where the cushion is to get us to 7 wins and over the Vegas number. That's just me, though. Before we get out of here, it's 11 o'clock, and I thank our guests. I mean, Jordan Severa always bringing it, and Sonny, thanks for joining us for the first time ever. I want to talk a little bit about. I know Sonny mentioned some of this stuff earlier, but while we have Jordan Silvera here, I can't help it. I got to take a look at the 2023 draft and some of the players coming out. Houston Texans probably predicted to maybe be the first overall pick. Would you say C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young?
I mean, no, I'm not going to take Tyler Van Dyke, although I'm a big Tyler Van Dyke guy out of Miami. But I take C.J. Stroud, and it's a personal preference to me. You're taking the physical attributes over a guy who Bryce Young's incredible, just a smaller frame.
Yeah, he's smaller. He's 6 foot, 190.
Look at the league right now. We tend to prefer the mutant quarterbacks. The Lamar Jackson, outrageous speed, thickly built. Josh Allen, a running tight end or fullback. Justin Herbert, 6'6", Greek God, 240. You're not seeing as much of the love being put to a Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray. They're fragile. Injuries are a concern. They're not seeing over the line. They throw only outside. It's you have your barriers.
I will tell you though, he was good. Bryce Young, good against the blitz and throwing the intermediate routes, which usually tends to bode well for success in the NFL.
Sure.
Ability to he does have the ability to throw all areas of the field. So I mean, it's going to be a tough choice for whoever's at the top of the draft to choose between CJ or Bryce. But after that, you're looking at a guy like maybe Will Anderson from Alabama.
I love Will Anderson.
Edge rusher, Sonny. Would you like to see Will Anderson in either of you like to see Will Anderson as the heir apparent to Robert Quinn?
I'm going to be completely honest with you guys that I don't watch college football. So
Well, see, you've got some homework to do this season. You're gonna have to put on a CFB on Saturday.
Yeah, okay.
I'll fill you in a
Actually,
little bit, Sonny.
I'm starting a new job now, so I may be able to catch some Saturday games. So usually I'm working Saturdays. So
There you go.
You know,
Mr.
Give us
Short calling Will
give me
Anderson Terminator.
Yeah, give me a little quick Will Anderson shot, Jordan.
Extremely special alien mutant. Has all the tools and build of Myles Garrett, but the refinement of picks. Like, let me put it this way, and this is why I'm feeling so special, better than a Chase Young or any of the highest rated edge rushers coming out of the classes I've had recently. He has somehow found a way to steal all of the best tools from all of the different edge rushers who have gone before him. He's got the ghost move of Von Miller. He's got the scissors move of the Bosa brothers. He's got the long arm of TJ Watt. Like, it's nasty. It is the type of player that if you need an edge rusher, and edge rushers, I may not totally agree with the fact that edge rushers are still the most important position on the field defensively, but the league does, and that's what matters.
But wouldn't you say that they get the most value at the top of the draft as edge rusher? At left,
yes.
A left tackle and edge rusher are probably your best value
after quarterback. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think Will Anderson is rare.
Absolutely.
Rare.
Let's just give Sonny a little taste of his numbers last season on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Defense, you're talking to racked up 101 tackles from the edge position, 31 and a half tackles for loss, and 17 and a half freaking sacks. You know, he's the kind of defender that offenses game plan for.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of talent we're talking about.
Let me pitch you guys a scenario that came up to me on Twitter, which I thought was funny, but you don't have to know the players to understand this. Because the Bears are the redheaded stepchild of the league right now, and everybody thinks they're going to be a top 3, top 5 pick. I had a Dolphins fan, for some reason I'm intertangled with Dolphins Twitter, tell me that they would beg.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that they would beg and plead they would trade it today. The Bears trade their first-round pick to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins will give us their 2 first-round picks for next year. So essentially, you don't know the result. You don't know what's going to happen. Dolphins fans are naturally presuming they're going to be in the playoffs with Tyreek Hill and everything. The Bears are going to be bottom of the wins column with the most interceptions at quarterback and all this other stuff. We give them a first. We get 2 firsts back. What do you do? I'll give you guys a little spoiler. I said outside. If I was Ryan Poles, side the dot right now.
I'll take 2 picks, man.
Yeah.
Most any day of the week, I'll take 2 picks. Do I think? Yeah. Here, Steve and me reading from my notebooks. Do we try hard to get Will Anderson? You know, I mean, maybe we're,
yeah.
We should take Will Anderson. That's pretty good.
I'll give you my little secret. I would do the trade if I was Ryan Poles. I would sign it and send it off today. Only because I don't think that the Dolphins – I think they'll be good. I don't think that they cash the check that they're hoping. The AFC – people talk about the AFC West like they're going to brutalize and beat each other. That's going to be the AFC East. And I don't think – I differ with Sonny a little bit. I like Zach Wilson a bit. I don't think Tua is the guy that takes them to the promised land. I think that they end up with – and the other pick is the 49ers pick with Trey Lance as a rookie. I think you end up with – let's even say the Bears get 6 wins. You give up pick 9 or 10, probably 7 or 8 worst for 16 and 22. I would take those 16 and 22 picks in a heartbeat because while I miss out on a guy like Will Anderson, I get to go get a Peter Skoronski left tackle out of Northwestern
and another pick,
and Miles Murphy out of Clemson with the 3 tech. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of people in the chat room going, hey, next year the Bears can get their wide receiver 1. And a lot of people predicting maybe the Bears will have a chance at Jackson Smith and Jigba on Ohio State. Your thoughts on the Ohio State speedy wide receiver?
He's great. He's fantastic. This is a philosophy thing. My opinion doesn't mean I'm right. What I'll ask you and Sonny, and you'll show me Jamar Chase and a few others, Justin Jefferson. Out of all the first-round wide receivers that have been picked in the last, let's just go 5 or 7 years, how many of them have actually panned out to be a wide receiver 1? And I don't know. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
I'm trying to rack my brain.
Yeah, it's tough.
Devontae Smith is good, but he hasn't.
CD Lamb.
And
he was around pick 17.
Odell was the number 1 pick too.
Yeah, but you get my point. Now let's go to the second round. A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, D.K. Metcalf.
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp was in the third. You can find solid, amazing wide receivers in the second. You don't have to get them with a top 10 pick. You just don't.
Former teammate of Justin Fields entice you, though?
Sure, but not really, because he was predominantly throwing to Olave, Wilson, and then Jameson was playing with him before he was actually throwing to Njigba. So
right, to Georgia, right? Or
yeah, and I mean, about that real quick, everybody wants to talk about the connection, and I appreciate that. I was a big Olave supporter. I loved Olave and the connection there. But you have to discount that a bit when you see Justin Fields building a relationship in the year and a half it's been with Mooney that I would argue is as strong as whatever he had with Olave and Wilson. The way that they talk about their relationship and what you saw in the field last year, why do we need a relationship built when you've already seen him be able to do that from scratch with Mooney?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they definitely, I think it remains to be seen what Velus Jones can do, right? A little bit some of these other dartboard throws that they're making with N'Keal Harry and Pringle and Dante Pettis, right? I mean, I'm not expecting much, but their Equinemius St. Brown. There's like 4 dartboard throws right there, Jordan.
I don't mean to. I promise I don't mean to be a shameless plug guy of like, please everybody tune into Bare Necessities, but I'll give you the short. Too long didn't read.
Is there a wide receiver room deep dive coming up on Bare Necessities?
No, because we talked about it last week that the too long don't read is I compared what the Bears are going through to the Buffalo Bills when Brandon Beane got there. And everybody knows Josh Allen as this guy that's a superstar right now. But they forget that year 1 was ugly. Year 2 was better, but not all-star. And then he took off in year 3. And if you look at that wide receiver room in year 2, it was John Brown, Cole Beasley, Isaiah McKenzie, and Kelvin Benjamin. Those were his receivers. And all the people that want to say Justin Fields can be ruined because he's throwing to Mooney, Pringle, ESB, Velus, like keep that same energy with Josh Allen, who's all of a sudden become an all-star. This is not going to be, and I know Dan doesn't agree, this is not going to be a Super Bowl year, but I watched Josh Allen.
I love the optimism, though.
Yeah, but like I watched Josh Allen improve steadily with less talent around him. Why can't Justin Fields do the same?
Yeah.
You saw Mooney be 1,000-yard receiver. That's the John Brown 1,000-yard receiver next year.
Yep.
And then I'm not telling you Velus Jones is going to rip off 1,500 yards like Jamar Chase, but what stops him from having 700 yards as a rookie? And he's adding value in the return game. He's taking a few handoffs, screens, and reverses. He has about 750 yards. And then Cole Kmet, even if, like, just put it this way, even if Cole Kmet has the exact same stats, 800 yards, we're not increasing that a bit. You have Darnell Mooney 1,000 yards, same exact standard. And then you give, I was going to say 700, you give 500 to Velus. That's 2,300 yards passing right there if they all stay healthy and play all the games.
Yeah.
And then you still have guys like N'Keal Harry and Byron Pringle and Ryan Griffin and the backs coming out of the backfield catching screens. And we saw Justin Fields willing to dump off to running backs. Why is a 3,000-yard passing season impossible when we've talked about the schedule is bad, the receiving options, the scheme, competent offense, defense will be aggressive in keeping games tight? Why do you not see that as an option?
Right. All right. Well, let's see who some other players we're going to look at. Yeah, of course, you mentioned Tyler Van Dyke, Miami Hurricanes quarterback.
Love him.
He'll be something to look at, man. He's got the size, wouldn't you say? A little bit bigger than the other 2 guys we mentioned.
I love him, yes.
Then you're looking at Jalen Carter, the Georgia defensive lineman who really stood out last year, right?
He's my top 3 tech option in the draft. I think he's amazing.
Right. Well, that would be something to make that Bears defense, the engine go there. We passed on some 3 techniques. You and I have lamented the fact that some guys were sitting there that would have looked nice in Bears uniform. And then, of course, the Ogunjobi signing kind of blew up in our face. I think he went to the Steelers. Is that where Ogunjobi ended up? Then you've got LSU receiver Keyshawn Butte. Can I get some booty? You got the Kentucky quarterback is a little intriguing. Will Levis. These are all guys that Bears barroom folks should take a look at. Sonny, when you sit down on Saturday, maybe flip on one of these games, especially whether it's Alabama or Georgia or any one of these big power teams. Let's see, Jordan. I mean, I don't have all the names. Clemson's got some good players. I think Brian Breesy,
Well,
another guy who might be fitting that defensive line.
I'll tell you what. Let me give one name for anybody, if you're pleased, if you want to do a little bit of homework, Sonny, if you want to just watch one player that'll make a difference for the potential if the Bears were to land him. And I actually think he'll probably have a historic rise this year. He may slip into the first round, unfortunately, or I guess jump into the first round. Cedric Tillman, wide receiver, Tennessee. You just pick that tree again for the Velus Jones Tennessee connection.
Yeah.
Go look up Cedric Tillman's stats last year. Go look up his highlights and then keep him as a name to watch this season. Cedric Tillman is the guy. Like you want to talk about the Bears need a true X. He's 6'3", 215, my type of guy.
Yeah. There's plenty of edge rushers and tackles, and quarterback. I mean, 2023 is arguably a much better draft than 2022 as far as like star potential, man. The future is looking real promising. We'll see how that plays out throughout the college football season this year. But yeah, a lot of stuff to be looking for on Saturday. So before we get out of here, it's getting late. I've got to work. It's only 9:15. Like Jordan's got plenty of time, but here in Des Moines and Chicago, you know, it's getting close to my bedtime. Any last points, Sonny? Thanks for joining us. Any last questions or points you want to make? Anything you're looking forward to for the season?
No, I mean, first of all, I appreciate you and Aldo and Dan just give me a chance just to speak Bears. I'm excited, super excited. Fields seems like he's the real deal. So I'm excited to finally, as fan base, we've never had that toy. So it seems like it seems that it's fine. You know, I want to be, you know, I know Dan jumped off, but
he did. I think Jody called maybe, huh?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Likely. I don't blame Dan. I'd rather probably I might I don't know, my wife isn't watching, but I think I might rather spend some time with Jody than here with you guys. But I love you guys too.
Yeah. But no, we've been so brutalized by Green Bay over these past years, man, that it's like you want him to start feeling that fear. I wouldn't want to say when they have to play Justin. I know Matt Nagy talked about the stupid dagger and whatnot. I want him to feel that dagger from Justin Fields and know how it feels, because we've received that dagger from Aaron Rodgers so many times. So I just want them to start feeling that also. And I do feel that Justin is that guy, man. He's like, like I said, if there's one thing on this team that I'm not worried about, it's him. Because he's the real deal. So I'm super excited.
Well, I think it might be a little bumpy. That's just me. Jordan, last thoughts. Let's pump a little bit of Bears Necessities this week. What do you have going on Thursday at 10 p.m. Central?
That is a great question. I'm going to be frank. I'm still trying to figure out exactly the agenda. But I put this out to the audience every week, and I mean it. We are still trying to figure out the plan every week for that show. I am always open to guests. You want to just even ask questions, leave me a voicemail.
Even an old man like Tooch?
Even an old man like Tooch, if you want to jump on and talk.
I'll ask him.
Well, the funny thing is, Tooch, maybe you brought up a good point, is, the funny thing is you actually know all of the teams. And that is valuable to me because I know the audience would hate this. But I don't have to talk Bears. I would talk Titans for an entire episode if we could. So it's one of those things like, I'm open to ideas. I mean, the early one, and if anybody wants to drop me a line, Jordan T. Silvera on Twitter, talk ideally arguing between whether we're doing kind of another segment of who the Chicago Bears could be and looking at the Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom era under Pete Carroll, or potentially looking at offensive line spending and talking about that. But the opportunities are endless, and I'm always open to having a guest. And if you want to join the show or contribute in any way, I know a lot of people are shy to bring the camera. You can send me a voice note of a question or a topic. I will play it and we can hash it out or talk it over, either myself and a guest. And just looking to really bring together the Bar Room and Barfly Network.
Right on. Well, I will have to take a Friday off to do a Thursday night late show.
Or convince Aldo to put it at a different time, because I have a lot of people that tell me they'd love to do it, but it's too late.
It wouldn't be too bad. I could do it, Jordan. We'll make it work. And then for me, I am hoping to bring the Maximum Edge Sports Wagering Show to the Bar Room. Talking with Aldo, and of course the stream team. We'll be talking stream and TV, and reviewing shows like the Lord of the Rings new series, the House of the Dragon new series, stuff like that. Get the nerd out, and the wagering show with Anthony Iglesias, who goes by the name of Pound It Sports on Twitter. If you're not following Anthony, you're missing out. Get his free pick every day. Anthony will give you lots of good insight into whether it's sports, any kind of sports, from soccer to basketball to football to baseball. He's really been so hot in baseball. Right now, of course, we had the All-Star break. I happen to just be a degenerate, and I put $5 on Juan Soto because I like his swing. Juan Soto won the HR Derby, so I had a little bit of a present when I woke up this morning. So we'd like to bring Maximum Edge, and hopefully that will start with football season. We'll be bringing in our Saturday and Sunday picks for the football season. Hopefully a very quick, usually like 15 to 30 minutes on Saturday and 15 to 30 minutes on Sunday. And if you have questions about sports wagering, Anthony and I will answer as much as we can. And then, of course, when college basketball season comes around, you're going to have to get on. And that's where you can make a good amount of money wagering on college basketball. Listen to Anthony and myself. So let's see. And, of course, Mr. Shorty has volunteered to do some stream team if we get that show up and rolling. Aaron Mikulski and Dan Aguirre and whoever else rotates in our rotating cast of characters. I want to thank Sonny and Jordan.
Thank you. And one of the ways, and we'll figure it out. Tooch, you're a joy to be with, and Sonny, you too. This has been a good time, and thank you all to the audience as well for tuning in. I know it's a late show. We talk about rotating, carousel subjects, but it's always fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for sure. Same here.
Right on. So I will wrap up the show for Aldo Gondir and all the hard work that Aldo does, and Dan Aguirre, the treasure, the Bears volume of knowledge, Bears Barroom volume of knowledge. For all of us, thank you and good night, Barflies. I love you.
Thank you for listening to Dan and Aldo Bear Their Soulz. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network and you give us a rating on iTunes. Until next week, my name is Nomse. Bear down.